Good evening and welcome to the Jinn&Tonic show on Friday, the 26th of October, 2018. As always, good evening to my co-host. Stop spamming.
Hi.
And
Getting an echo. What?
hopefully we're okay now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had it still playing in the background there. Our guest, Taqiyya Watch, will be joining us shortly, and he'll be presenting on the jizya and life under the Islamic caliphate for infidels. So hopefully that'll be coming shortly. Good evening if you're watching us, and good evening if you're in the chat as well. We'll get started with a few news items and some crazy comments as always. Before we do that, anything from your side, Stops, that's just come about?
Well, I'm wondering if we need to explain to people that we are a show which is probably the only one on the planet at the moment, which is English speaking, focused on Islam, giving people the opportunity to discuss Islam without any kind of censorship, without any kind of restrictions on what you want to discuss in what way. You can come up with any idea that you have on Islam. We are focused on Islam because it is something worthwhile discussing. The way that it works, it's a live show where you can just contact us and you will be part of the panel, so you can talk to us in the backwards and forwards. So this is the live interaction. You have the possibility of interacting via typing in the chat. This is what we call the live chat, where people are watching on the YouTube channel, watching a live rendition of what is happening here. And if there are people on the panel here which are who are talking to each other, people can hear this and can type their comments at the same time. The way that you get into the panel, if you really want to discuss something, if you have a topic, if you have a suggestion, if you have a correction, if you whatever you want, then you just go and contact Rob on his Facebook page, or contact Gin&Tonic. I don't actually go so much on the Gin&Tonic Facebook page. Just say, hi, I've got a topic, I'd like to join, and that's how you get on here. And then you can discuss whatever you want on Islam. So please don't start talking about BMWs or Audis or whatever. The focus is Islam.
I've just put the link in for my Facebook as well. You can always email as well. And good evening to Abu. How are you, my good sir?
Good evening. I'm fine. How are you?
What can you tell us from your neck of the woods?
What I can tell you in general.
What's new on your side? Come on, you have this exciting life. What's up?
Nah, it's not exciting. Sometimes it's kind of boring.
Don't tell us the times when it's boring. Tell us the times when it's exciting.
I don't know.
Can somebody tell me the pronunciation of Sinead O'Connor?
Sinead O'Connor, yeah. Sinead O'Connor.
Some people say something like sh, and I never know whether it's sh or sir or whatever.
Yeah, speaking of which, I guess we can where is that one? Let's bring that up and we can read that one. I actually sent that to you, didn't I? So let's just.
Yeah, but she's a nutcase. I mean, she's a total weirdo, and who goes totally moggy. She's been to, I don't know, a clinic, I don't know how many times, and she's Sinead. Exactly, Sinead. This is what I heard as well. Sinead. I don't know.
Yes,
anyway,
that's it.
So what happens? I mean, Muslims are rejoicing at the moment, okay, because somebody who has a name, because she had a nice song in the 90s, and that's like 20 years ago. And so people remember her name, because now she said she's a Muslim, and she used to be a Christian priest even, or something. I don't know if that's true or not. So what happens if she's going to be a Buddhist next week? Does that mean then Islam is going to disappear because this woman suddenly decides that she's no longer going to be a Muslim? What is the consequence really of one person joining or leaving Islam? I mean, there's millions every year who are leaving Islam at the moment. So what's the point?
Can anyone tell me? I also read about this. Who is this woman?
She's a singer. Here it is. I've got it on screen now. And Irish singer Sinead O'Connor has announced she's converted to Islam. The artist, best known for a 1990s hit "Nothing Compares to You," has changed her name to, how do you pronounce that? Shuhada. Yeah. in the message on Twitter.
Martyr. Can you believe it? She's a martyr.
Is that what it means? Okay. And that's her name now, presumably, is it? This is to announce that I'm proud to have become a Muslim. There's a natural conclusion.
Name. Remember, people are hiding behind fake names like me. So is she.
Actually, shuhada is the gem of shaheed, the plural of shaheed. So shuhada, if that is what she's calling herself, is the plural of shaheed, meaning martyrs in plural.
Oh, so she is several people. Oh, she's schizophrenic.
No comments.
So there it is. This fella's talking about it, and there she must have taken the. It's not the first time O'Connor legally changed her name to Magna de Witt last year. It's publicly spoken about religion. 1992, she sparked controversy after ripping up a photo of the Pope live on TV. 7 years later, she was ordained by a breakaway church in Lourdes. Catholic Church, which does not allow women to become priests, did not recognize the ceremony. So there's some other famous.
Ordained as a priest, okay.
There's other famous converts: Omar Sharif, songwriter Yusuf Islam, Cat Stevens. Now, by the way, if you haven't watched it, it's a shame that he converted, because I think he actually still does music. Apparently, he did the song at the end of. If you haven't watched Guardians of the Galaxy 2, you should watch that. At the end, I won't give the story away if you haven't seen it, but there's a great song at the end that's actually his song that plays in like an emotional moment. So there we go. Apparently he was a good songwriter. I didn't know Ice Cube converted to Islam, and I don't know who David Chappelle is. Sounds familiar, but who knows. So there we go. Oh, a couple of more quick things here. Here it is. I think we're all familiar with Tariq Ramadan, a professor of Islamic studies, said on Monday he had engaged in sex games with 2 women in France who accused him of rape, but said it was submissive, dominant relationship was consensual. It's the first time in a year-long case the Oxford University professor was taken a leave of absence from the British institution amidst having sexual relations with the plaintiffs. So he's denied it all this time, and now, as other men apparently do, like the prolific Hollywood fella, it's all consensual. So initially it's denied, and then eventually it's consensual. So
doesn't the Qur'an tell you not to spread falsehood?
Well, obviously he's not claiming falsehood, or he's claiming he's being honest about it. I don't know what he said previously. Yeah. Well, there we go. And then this was the other one we were talking about. So the European Court of Human Rights has ruled that defaming the Prophet Muhammad goes beyond the permissible limits of objective debate. It could stir up prejudice and put at risk religious peace. Well, where is religious peace? Exactly. That's like a unicorn. It's a concept that doesn't seem to exist in reality. There we go. The ruling was passed.
Who's in charge of this European Convention of Human Rights?
Well, it's the European Court of Human Rights. So there's a set of judges that sit on this court that is the highest court in Europe, apparently.
Are they employed by the European Union?
Yep.
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
So are they in charge of religious peace as well?
Well, they're just in charge of the law, so somehow stirring up prejudice.
What is prejudice? Prejudice is that you are judging something based on no information. Now somebody is giving you information, so it's no longer prejudice. That's so stupid.
The ruling was passed against an Austrian national referred to as ES in reports. Mrs. S, born in 1971, held 2 seminars in 2009 entitled Basic Information on Islam, referencing Muhammad's marriage. She said he liked to do it with children, and a 56-year-old and a 6-year-old. What do we call it if not pedophilia? This led to a conviction and a failed appeal process.
So she asked the question.
He was convicted for saying that.
She
was convicted. Oh my goodness.
She was later convicted in February 2011 by the Vienna Regional Court for disparaging religious doctrines and ordered to pay a fine of 480 euros plus legal fees. After having her case thrown out by both the Vienna Court of Appeal and the Austria's Supreme Court, the European Court of Human Rights backed the court's decision to convict Miss S on Thursday, found there been no violation of Article 10, freedom of expression, of the European Convention on Human Rights. The ECHR claimed the decision was made to protect religious feelings and that legitimate aim of preserving religious peace in Austria. They went on to add this sort of abusive attack on the Prophet of Islam could stir up prejudice and put at risk religious peace. I will post it there if you want to read it a little bit further. So there we go.
This appeasement is pissing me off.
This is sick.
Yeah, this is incredible. What next?
I would like to talk to those responsible.
You're telling me. But
Oh, am I soft again?
no, you're coming through. Okay, you're coming through fine.
Kletchi is saying, please make stops louder. Okay. Let me see what.
Oh, okay. I can push your volume up a little bit there. There we go. You're a bit louder now, so let's hear what you sound like now.
Hello.
Yep,
I don't
you're
understand.
coming through.
Like, how do they get away with this? They are convicting a woman for saying something that is taken from the hadith. She's only like, I think it's how is this possible?
Okay, what you are doing is you're putting the finger exactly where it hurts, because the thing is, she did not go and say, according to Islamic scholars or according to the narration that has been deemed authentic by Islamic scholars. She did not precede her statement and her question with these words. And this is the big problem. So if you go and you say anything about Muhammad, and this is something that I automatically do, I always say that these are the sayings which have been deemed authentic by Islamic scholars, and then I go and say it, because this is exactly what the court said. She was not quoting a fact. She was not quoting anything historic. She was not quoting anything that could be taken seriously, because she was not quoting anybody. She was just paraphrasing. And this is why, if she had added, and this is exactly where you are 100% right, if she had said, I'm using scholars, Islamic scholars, nothing would have happened, because then the court wouldn't have been able to do that. But at the moment, this is just a cop-out. We have this situation in a lot of European countries where people are afraid that if they hurt the feelings of Muslims, there's going to be riots. And they don't want the riots. They don't want people taking it out on individual Muslims. That is why they're doing everything to appease the sentiment and the feelings of Muslims at the moment, to not cause any kind of a riot. That's all it is.
Was she from Austria, the woman?
Yeah.
I actually think that people should organize demonstrations, because I think this violates like the like regressives always like to talk about value, what do they call it? Value basics, or whatever they call it. I mean, this is a clear violation of the most basic value that Western societies are built upon.
Yeah, indeed. All right, let's move on to some crazy comments, and then Taqiyya Watch will be joining us at around 8:30. So let me just bring this up. Where have it disappeared to?
I'm seeing this in the chat. The Jinn&Tonic show was closed down, was shut down for hate speech. The original Jinn&Tonic show.
Was it?
Because this Jinn&Tonic show, I opened this under my name. This is a sub account of mine, because the original one was shut down.
Lily's saying something there. All right, everyone. Guess Rob didn't get my messages as comments taken from posts of the Sinead O'Connor issue. If anyone wants, Lily, do you want to join and tell us about that? I'm not sure what you're referring to there. So no, I didn't get your message.
I think it's about some background, whether she wants to make a video or explain it.
Let us know in the comments if you either want to join or you want to just explain it in the comments, and we'll read out your comments. In the meantime, let me bring up the crazy comments, and we can read a few. Stops, if you can start, because I think these were originally a few you sent over, and then
Yeah, because remember I joined a couple of groups, and it's quite weird because they let you in the group, but as soon as you say something critical or anything, if you don't agree with them, they're pretty quick to check you out. And some people are not going to check you out because they don't want to be called censors, so they do other things. Now, this is something where somebody says, well, the Trinity in Christianity is blah, 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 and we don't have this in Islam, and therefore we're much better. So I said, you don't understand the concept of Trinity, because he was talking absolute rubbish about, Father, Ghost, and Mother, or I don't know what. It's stupid, I know, but then all cults based on gods are, whether it's Islam or Judaism, they're equally ridiculous. In Islam, you need to believe that you can revive a corpse by slapping it with a piece of steak simply because it's in the Quran. Does that make sense? Hardly. And of course, there is nothing like that in Quran. Reason why you didn't mention any reference. Okay, why aren't you giving me any reference? Why aren't you giving me the verse now? Because what they are saying, as soon as you start saying, okay, this is in the Quran in sentence number X in this chapter, then they have the hook, because then they can say, well, that's not really what it says, and you don't speak Arabic, you've been to the wrong university, it was the wrong sheikh, and you're an Islamophobe anyway. So this is why I don't do that, and this is why they're always calling me out on this. And he says, mind your language. If you again use a word like that, you will be blocked out. Okay, because I said that probably that Islam is ridiculous, and I'm not allowed to say that. So I asked him, there's nothing like that in the Quran. So you have no clue what the Quran says? Are you for real? Oh, and you can talk absolute nonsense as long as you don't use some word on some shitty list. What word did I use that you think is so bad? The word understand? You don't like free speech, do you? Stop talking nonsense, behave like a normal person, and you'll be treated like one. Your behavior and primitive argumentation is hardly convincing, and now you may block me for telling the truth. And they didn't.
oh dear.
And he's still writing the same nonsense, and he still doesn't know. He still doesn't answer the question: is it really true that you can? Does it make sense that you could slap a corpse with a piece of steak to revive it? No answer. No answer.
I've also grabbed a few here from Lily. She was kind enough to send them, and I have found them. So thank you, Lily, for that. Right, moving on. Yeah. There's another one there. Go ahead.
Me again. Okay, so this is it was great. Okay, Amir Abd al-Qadir was a great scholar, Mujahid, and a Sufi. When the French invaded Algeria, the Amir led a jihad against one of the best equipped armies in the world. Okay, and I asked, I commented, and here I was thinking jihad is the personal struggle within oneself.
And somebody responded.
And this guy, it's the same guy. It's the same guy who then says, please, you are not invited here. Because he can't answer.
Yeah, it is.
Because Amir led a jihad. I don't think that leading a jihad, which is the personal struggle against something, you're going to, lead a jihad against one of the best equipped armies in the world and defeat them. Because that's what it says. Amir led a jihad against one of the best equipped armies in the world and he defeated them. I don't think he did this by doing yoga.
Perhaps if he is a solipsist, and if his solipsistic worldview is correct, which is it's not, but then maybe it's technical to say that it's a personal struggle within himself, because nothing else than his own mind exists.
Yeah. All right.
Show me. It's
Moving on.
267. Oh, James, thank you very much. Okay, yeah, those are the sentences. But this is exactly what I'm trying to avoid, because now he can go back and say, no, that's not what it says.
There you go. Stops. Another one of yours, I think.
Oh yeah, this is our favorite village idiot. This is from Kenya. Okay. When truth comes, falsehood must flee. Keep running, atheist. And he writes it with a capital A. I don't know what atheist is for him. We both know you got spanked and humiliated. Okay, maybe he know. I don't know. I'm missing something. Did I get spanked and
I think
humiliated
he's
by
the
him?
only one who claims to know that.
Otherwise, you would jump at the chance to prove me wrong. No, I feel charitable and sorry for you. I can say the sun is hot and you would call me a liar. No, I called you an atheist and you say the word doesn't exist. No, that's not what I say. He's
You've
lying.
never said that.
I say I don't identify. I don't like the label atheist for myself, so I don't identify as atheist. I identify as a person without a God belief, and that's it. Because atheist means so many different things for so many different people that I avoid the confusion and just say, no, I'm not an atheist. I didn't say the word doesn't exist. Of course the word exists. I mean, that's stupid. You are simply a buffoon. Yeah. Prove that you're not. Pick a topic. I will leave you confounded and perplexed again.
I mean, that could well be true in the sense that he talks so much BS that you just like, what is this guy saying? So from that point of view, maybe that is like partly true, but the only reason one would be quite unquote confounded or perplexed is because of the nonsense that's being spouted. So
yeah, because in our so-called what he calls debate, what did he do? He didn't make any points or anything. He just this was a sermon. He was just rambling on and on, quoting the Quran. That was it. So this was not, giving any points, giving any arguments, and no, he was just quoting the Quran. This is what is it? Imam will do on during the khutbah, and that's it. But there's nothing else there. So I was very perplexed because I thought, okay, what do I do with this? The one point that he made, I already refuted before he made it, and the rest was just nonsense. So I was perplexed. This is true because I didn't know what the hell he was doing.
Yeah. Somebody, just on a side note, somebody in the chat saying yesterday night I watched a very recent HBO documentary on Boko Haram. The horrors were just mind-boggling, but no one cares about Islamic terrorism in third world countries. That's probably true. It just doesn't get reported. Nobody sort of, seems to care about that. So, but they care when it's Rohingya or something like that, right? But when it's Boko Haram, well,
maybe what was the called? The court, the European Court of Human Rights. By showing that documentary, you stir up prejudice, or
negative sentiments, and you're
negative,
hurting the feelings of Muslims. Yeah.
Well, and the religious peace that's supposedly out there.
Yeah.
Indeed. All right, let's move on. We've got quite a few here. Maybe this is hijab and one of the guys in Speaker's Corner. Maybe this atheist needs to be exposed to the heavy substance that Quran and Sunnah carries. That is astonishing us with astounding findings on a daily basis.
Oh yes, please expose us.
The heavy substance, yes, it is heavy mythology. That's true.
Hit my brain with this heavy substance.
Atheists have no yardstick for morality. Maybe 100 years in the futures, they will marry a piano. Good luck for your generation. How can people type stuff like this? I mean, is the brain and the fingers completely disconnected from each other? It's astonishing. Here we go. 01. When put under a microscope, all atheists can only say is, I don't know. Just believes that something comes out of nothing. No different than the Christians. 1 + 1 + 1 = 1.
1/3.
That's a plagiarism.
1.
That's
my latest reply that I put under Muslim comments like this, and then there was, what is 2/3 + 1/3 + 1/8?
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, exactly. How about this? Yeah, put those fractions in there, and then they'll ask, what is that all about? And you can point them to the verses. That's a good point. Thunderous, good evening. How are you, my good sir?
Oh, fine, thank you. Thank you for letting me join.
Yeah, of course.
Can I just comment on that 1 + 1 + 1?
Yes, go ahead.
That's the Muslims claiming that, isn't it, about the Trinity? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
They've plagiarized that and copied that from Jehovah's Witnesses of 1953.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah, they did a tract in 1953 because the Jehovah's Witnesses do not believe in the Trinity. So that's where the Muslims have got that from. So it's ironic that a Muslim religion would use information and plagiarize information from a Christian denomination to confirm its own point.
But they
Well,
do
they
it all
do.
the time.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you took the words out, literally the same words I was going to say. They do this all the time. All the arguments they bring forward are, a version of a Christian argument that they've tried to modify, don't really understand, and do a poor version of trying to put it forward. So it's not surprising. But yeah. But yeah, I think Stops, your one is a good one. Underneath comments like this, put the fractions in, and then when there's a response, you put the verses in. And then you probably won't hear back from them again.
Where is that fraction verse? I can't believe it. Come on, guys. Are you not paying attention? 411, 412, 176. It's all in chapter 4. Anisa, it's the inheritance, 11, 12, and 176. Very easy.
And again, Stops, just post your little video there, because again, reading it just once over, you may not get the point. So you've got to read it once or twice. But Stops has put a little video up that's like short, like 3-4 minutes or whatever it is, that it explains it. And then you can read the verse for yourself, see if it matches what Stops says in the video, and it's just easily put forward. And then you can do your own research.
Work on top of everything.
Right, moving on. Next one. White guy has very weak intellect or very low IQ and is just fuming at getting schooled by Hashim out of arrogance and narcissism. Gets angry and frustrated when his beliefs are questioned and ripped apart. Starts being insulting and starts mocking and making faces. These are the people who are fighting against truth. Honestly, it's pure hatred and arrogance. Of course it is. Anybody that wants to challenge the Muslims. This was a video, I think, with Hashim and some fella. I don't know if that he might have gone to Speaker's Corner once or twice, but I don't recognize him. I think it's a new face.
Is that his face there?
No, that's just his that famous picture. This guy's so infuriating. I cannot effing believe that we get into the semantics game about nothing. Guys being contrarian for the sake of saving face. It is at this point that we can see, ladies and gentlemen, that he has the seal in his heart. He has the seal in his heart. Please use your dawahs and prayers for sincere people, not this guy. Of course, we're going to talk about, quote, the semantics of nothing. It's more important than you think. But again, that's obviously somebody who hasn't thought about the nothing or listened to, more nuanced arguments about it. All right. This is Yasha Kadi. If I've pronounced that correctly, and he did a post on this as well. I'm very happy to hear that Sinead O'Connor, the famous singer from Ireland, has converted to Islam. She wrote, "This is to announce that I am proud to have become Muslim. This is the natural conclusion of any intellectual theologian's journey. All scripture study leads to Islam, which makes all the other scriptures redundant. I will be given another new name. It will be Suhada." So there we go. According to her, I did post. I did post in the comments here. We'd love to have her on to the Jinn&Tonic show, and she can, avail us of the intellectual, theological journey that she's undertaken, and we can see if she makes more sense than other people that have come on to do that. So,
Rob, you're evil.
but somehow I doubt she'll come on and avail us of this intellectual journey. But I would genuinely like to hear what she has got to say. Anyway, moving on. Here's a few from Sarah Garvey that he posted that I put on. Sarah Garvey, you effing idiots. And I'm saying that because I've got guests here. That's the only reason I'm just being careful with my words here. You defend Christians and their Bible, which was manufactured to enslave your damn ass. You effing Negro ancestors will be turning in their graves, lol. So this was Sarah's posting a few of these crazy comments on Facebook, challenging, him directly and his skin color in particular.
Is he suggesting that the Bible was manufactured for enslavement?
Oh yes, this person is
anybody with any intelligence and has done even entry-level cursory research of history will show that the Bible was used to abolish slavery, not to put people in slavery. The history of slavery, well, we don't want to go into the subject, but I mean, it was Africans selling Africans after they'd taken them over in tribal warfare. And Islam has only in the past 50 years condemned the slave trade because it's the biggest exploiter of Africans in the slave trade. and those texts are blatantly there in the Quran and Hadith.
Actually, Islam has not condemned slave trade. It's particular.
I stand corrected.
nature.
Yes, I stand corrected. Certain countries have made comments retrospective about the slave trade. You're quite right. Islam as a whole hasn't. I stand corrected on that.
Cool. Moving on. Black stupid dog barking again. Not man enough to debate in Speaker's Corner. I mean, he used to be there all the time. I think he's got bored of it, and to some degree, possibly rightly so. Oh, another confused Negro from another Negro. Isn't that irony? What's the skin color got to do with it? There we go. This is, his brothers giving him a hard time. Look at this mindless, bald, brain-dead, aggressive coon. Buddy, one day you're going to lose your jaw in the park and we're all going to be laughing. Another friendly, peaceful Muslim. This is, of course, the religious peace that we want to keep, isn't it?
Exactly.
Oh, and here's our friends from Speaker's Corner. So here's the Chowdhury supporters. I'll just read it because it might be a little bit small or blurred there. There was a news article. Anjem Chowdhury supporters cheered his prison release, chanting Allahu Akbar, and threatened to link up with him, sparking fears his army is regrouping. The affiliates known as Bilal and Suleiman had been leading hardline Muslim gangs hijacking Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park, central London. Last Sunday, they called for a Sharia law and Muslim domination. Extremism analyst Emma Fox said, the authorities' worst fears seem to have been confirmed. Chowdhury's release has reinvigorated a support base. His sleeping army seems to be stirring. Well, these two mindless numbskulls, you can probably see many videos on them down there. I mean, even the other Muslims are challenging them. So anyway. Now we're back to your one. So that's the crazy comments. Oh, let me just stop the screen presenting there. Cool. So there we go. Always something. It's not often that the Speaker's Corner people get into some newspaper. I can't see what paper that was, but presumably it's one of the national papers.
Sorry.
Sorry, stops. I did. Where did I save these things to? I did. There were a few more. Sorry, and Lily sent them to me. And why am I not seeing them? Apologies. Here's just a couple more. Sorry about that. Lily did send them, so I want to honor the fact that she sent them. There's only 5 of them here. Hopefully, we can see this. Whoa! What happened there? That's my mistake. Clicking too many buttons too fast. Present to everybody. There we go. So this was from Lily. Thank you, Lily. I wish this video reaches every Muslim that they know how disrespectful these homosexuals are and why they need to be exterminated. Lily, if you're watching, just let us know the context around which ones these come from. I didn't see that in your comments, and I must be honest, I just quickly grabbed these, so I wasn't reading in depth. Being in the United States, you are free to do that. But do it in a Muslim country like Pakistan, Afghanistan, etc. I swear the people there are going to cut your dick off and make you suck it. Dumb arsehole. Shut up, you tart. He's in Canada. No matter where, it's fucking weird to make fun of other religion. Yeah. So presumably this might be against Armin Navabi. Maybe it may be against that video. Who knows? Let's see what this one's going to say. This might be the dumbest post ever. As a non-believer, I think you have no right to provoke any kind of religions. I don't care if you're an atheist or something else. This is not cool. I don't believe in anything, and usually I don't give an F about the people think about religions. But if you texted Jesus is gay, I'm sure you would receive the same amount of death threats. No, you wouldn't.
Sorry.
What nonsense. Well, there you go. We both said it at the same time. It ain't about death threats. It's about respecting their beliefs, and you don't do that here. Not cool, man. But you just talked about death threats and then said it ain't about death threats. Make up your mind. Actually, we had gay Jesus as well in the same parade. Nobody received any death threats for that. Quite right. There you go. Yes, indeed. Oh, yeah. Allah, don't worry. If you die, you will see how bastard you are. Hell is waiting for you. Brother, don't worry. You are gay. Don't make Allah like you. You such a bitch. You pig, may Allah grant you the biggest hell in hereafter. Baboy. What's barboy? There we go. It's amazing how quickly the emotions come to the fore here. And the final one, I think it is. Why is the world so much behind this gay thing? Gays are increasing, and I'm really disappointed and shameful. There are gay folks in every corner of every culture, religion on earth. God made us all, didn't he? He made everyone straight, then women fooled you into being gay. Forget education. You couldn't even get human nature right. Oh, my word. Oh, there we go. I think that's the last one of those. Yes, there we go. So,
hello, hello.
Good evening, Taqiyya Watch. How are you, my good sir?
I'm fine. Sorry for being a little bit late, but I'm doing fine.
You missed the fun and the entertainment, so it's all good. Perfect timing. We've been through some crazy comments, and oh my word, are they crazy?
Can I just finish off this Sinead or whatever, Connor? Because she has decided to change brands, okay, and not, as she stated just a few weeks ago, thank Christianity helping her through mental illness, emotional stress, and the likes. But now she prefers Islam and has changed her name to another fake name, which is the Shahuda thing. She has 4 sons from different men, several serious partnerships with women, and Muslims rejoice. I just wonder what they will say when she leaves again, because if she's going to have now music and lesbian relationships as a good Muslim, I wonder what they're going to say. Interesting. Oh no, sorry. This was on hijab. This was it on Sinead O'Connor because this is something that we haven't heard yet with the 4 sons from different men. She was married 4 times. I thought only men are allowed.
Well, that was before she was Muslim, right? So now she's Muslim. She's going to be a good girl, presumably.
Okay.
Anyway, good evening, Taqiyya Watch. Thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
And today we're going to have a chat, and you're going to share with us your thoughts. By the way, can I share that document with people? Are you happy for people to view that?
Sure.
Okay, I've put it in the private chat so people can access it there. This is a document that Taqiyya watched. I think when you were chatting, we spoke, and you've worked on this for 2 years, I believe it is. So maybe just tell us a little bit about this document. I've posted in the main chat there.
Brilliant.
All right. So most people don't have the time to study Islam, and rightfully so. I mean, maybe it doesn't interest them. But Islam is not just a religion. It's a way of life, as Muslims like to say. So it's religious, it's political, it is social, it is military, you know. So it's going to affect your life. So I just try to make a shortcut for people that based on the topic that you're interested on, you should be able to go to this document and view it as a database. So if you're interested to see how non-Muslims are described and should be treated when authentic Islam is implemented, then you'll have a certain section for that. If you're interested how women are treated in authentic Islam when that's implemented according to Muhammad and his first generation Muslims, then you have that section there. And if you want to see about warfare, then you have that section. If you want to see how it is, let's say about slavery, or if you're going to leave Islam, basically it's based on your interest. So you don't have to read all of it. So I created basically a database where people can have access to information based on their interests.
Excellent. Yeah. And so you now have access. We've used that before. I didn't know who it was. We knew somebody had created it. So all credit to you. Just share with us a little bit about yourself for those people, to whatever degree you're comfortable doing so. A little bit about yourself for those people that may not have. I think you've been on before, if I remember correctly. So, but there may be people that don't recognize or know you. So maybe just a little bit of background in whatever way you feel comfortable.
All right. So I do have a Christian background. What can I share? I don't have a problem with Muslims per se. I think I make a strong or clear distinction between Muslims and the faith. So I guess my interest in Islam came around 2004, 2005. I grew up with Muslims. I didn't have any problem with them. And they were fasting once per year. They didn't drink alcohol. They had the Qur'an as decoration. They didn't read it. There was no problem with that. And basically, my neighborhood, it's a very multicultural society. I guess the problem came when more more Muslims in my neighborhood started to take it more serious, and I understood that, hey, there's something here that needs to be taken care of, at least investigated. And that's when I opened the Quran the first time, 2004, 2005. And that's when I understood that basically what I've been told is not really what's in their books. So I understood that if somebody would take this serious, we would have a huge problem. So I guess that's what I feel comfortable with sharing. I'm an academic. I come from the university world. I'm studying my 4th year in university. What more can I share?
Good. No, that's great. No, 100%. I'm quite happy with that. So let's move on then and chat about, and you can present, either you can share your screen or you can just talk, whichever you feel comfortable with. And we can do one of two things. You can do the full chat or presentation, and then we can talk at the end, or we can stop at certain points if you like, and we can interject, whichever works better for you.
I think I made a PowerPoint presentation. I'd gladly discuss this while I'm presenting. I'm fine with that. I think the presentation is about 15 minutes, so either I do 50 minutes.
Yep.
All right. So I'll do it in 15 minutes if that's fine.
Yeah. Take your time. No rush. No rush at all.
Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep. There we go. It's coming up now.
All right. So let's do it. So I made a PowerPoint presentation. Let's just kick it.
Go for it.
Can you hear the sound, by the way?
No, it won't come through. You've got to route the sound with Google Hangouts, so we won't hear the sound, unfortunately.
Okay, that's good to know. So how do I do that?
Not easily. You've got to route the sound from your computer. You're not going to be able to do that very easily if you haven't set it up before. So you might just have to give us a summary of what is being said, because we won't hear it. Stop Spamming has got a special program that he has to run the video through.
What are we watching? Which screen is this?
So
that's Minicam.
Yeah, but here is
sorry. This is the normal screen. No, what you need to do is you need to have a streaming software package.
Okay, so maybe I can share the link to you and you can play it. It's very short, but it's just nice.
Have you got access stops that you can just play that video? Is it like
need to have the link?
Yeah, I'll send the link in our chat.
Oh, put it in the main chat there. Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead. Is that your edited version, or is it a video that somebody else has posted?
Academic Screeching put its one up.
Ah, brilliant. Okay. Cool.
Okay, so it's very short. It's less than a minute or something like that, a minute and a half. Okay, so I'll send the link to our chat.
Pop it down. I'll put it in for people as well. There we go.
It's just a nice introduction.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. I'll put that in the chat as well for people who want to watch that afterwards. All right, Stops. I will bring it over to you just to play the video, and then we'll go back. So you let us know when the video is ready there. Yeah, that's the only thing with Google Hangouts. Okay, we can't hear it at the moment. Stops. We can see it. It's playing smoothly, but we can't hear anything.
You can't hear it.
No, you might have to change the the input in Hangouts. I think.
Come on, I can't do this. What the hell is wrong with this? Okay, let me just reset this.
Okay, he's reset it by jumping out of the Hangout. He'll be back in a minute, I'm sure. I think, there we go. All right.
Okay, now it's accepting it. So minicams, speakers, no.
Okay, you're presenting to everybody, so is it working now? Just play it and we can hear it.
I cannot see speakers minicam. I don't believe it.
I mean, worst case scenario, people can have a look at it from the chat if you can't get it running.
It's just powerful when people can see, because I'm going to show a lot of information, but when you can see this come alive, it's quite powerful. Yes. So, of course, this is Raj, it's fun, but there's other parts that basically you see the text come alive. So it's quite powerful, especially when you want to red pill people. It's okay. I can find another way. I can do it on I can do the sound on my phone while it's playing, so you see the big point.
All right, stop. So I'm gonna swap it back to Taqiyya Watch then and present to everybody. There we go.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know why this didn't. I think I need to have minicam running before I start the hangout.
Yes, that's correct. You do. Yeah.
Because it's not coming up at all.
No worries. All right, Taqiyya, it's back over to you.
Okay, so that's fine. That's fine. Okay, should be all right. Okay, so I'll get my screen share here, and let's try if this works.
There you go.
So it should be something like this.
Yep.
So I'll play the sound from my phone.
Okay, that's it.
And let's see.
See if we can speak.
Raj is about to cry. Step back. Come on.
Let me just say something. We're not having Sharia in this country. Speaker's Corner is not going to be under Sharia. Never. We're not playing that bullshit. Jizya. You're mad. This one seems like we're not having Sharia in Speaker's Corner. We're not having Sharia in Speaker's Corner. This one ticket.
All right, so he's a one-man army. I mean, he knows what Sharia, what jizya is. So when I say jizya, I'm going to try to introduce it according to Islamic sources. So let's just start with what jizya is according to the Quran. So I have Quran 9:29 in front of me here. So I have two translations just to make sure that people see that it's basically saying the same thing. So the first thing it's saying here, according to the Noble Quran, Hilali and Khan translation, it's saying the following: you fight those who do not believe in Allah. The first thing that you see here is you fight them based on their disbelief. And then it continues and says, you fight those who do not believe in the last days. I guess that's those who are not religious or agnostic. And the third type of people you fight are those who forbidden what Allah has forbidden and His Messenger. Basically, those who do not submit to Islamic law. And they have a fourth type, which are the people of the book who reject Islam, and they're called Jews, Christians. It's also Sabians and Zoroastrians. So it's four groups, basically. And you fight them until they pay money. Jizya is basically like a tax. But it's more than just money. You got to make sure that they feel they got to submit. And they feel subdued. That is very important. So it's more than just money. You got to make sure that you know this part. All right? And Sahih translation say the same thing. Next slide. So I have a video here. I won't play this because it's going to take too long time with the technique here. Or maybe I should do that. So according to Sahih Bukhari, volume 3, 3953, it's defining, because some people ask, like, how much tax is it? Even sometimes you'll hear Muslims say, hey, non-Muslims, they pay less tax than us, so it's quite fair. It's not really that clear. Scholar says that, it should be a certain amount of gold. It's not really clear how much you should pay. But according to this hadith here, you see that the Jews have to pay half of their fruits. I'll just read this one. So Allah's Messenger intended to expel the Jews, but they requested him to let them stay there on the condition that they would do the labor and get half of the fruit. So according to this source, you'll see that the jizya is half of what you earn. Other sources will be around 10% or even 1.25%, something like that. So it's not that clear. But in this video here, before I go on and tell you what jizya is, it's not just money. Remember that. You have to make sure that they feel subdued. You'll see a Muslim here who says that jizya is so beautiful. He'll present the Disney version of what jizya is. He said, America should impose jizya on Muslims. I do want you to see this. And then after that, I will show you what jizya is actually when it comes alive. So here it is.
And jizya is taken from non-Muslims. Allah said in the Quran, in Surah Tawbah, Surah number 9, ayat number 29, that fight those who do not believe in Allah and last day till they humble themselves. And if they do not revert to Islam, collect jizya from them. The non-Muslims, unfortunately, they misquote this ayat, misrepresent this ayat as a very barbaric law from the Muslim community or the Sharia over the
All right. So if we would take what he says seriously, then we got to implement jizya according to what Muhammad said, not your Disney version. So let's find out what jizya is according to Islam. So those who are paying jizya, they are called dhimmis. So it's a status in society where you are Muslim, not to say that you're a protected person. So you live under Islamic State, you're a protected person. But we have to remember, and those who pay jizya are Jews, Christians, Zoroastrians, and Sabians. And through histories, we have seen and made an exception for Sikhs. But Sikhs, according to the Quran, verse 9:5 and 9:28, they are one of the most disgusting people, because they believe in many gods, they're misleading people, and they're not submitting to Allah. But once in history, they made the exception for the Sikhs. But normally they have two options: either they convert to Islam or you kill them. But they claim that those who are dhimmis, basically those who are under Islamic State, they are protected. It's basically half truth. Who are they protected from? So if you would compare that to the mafia coming to your restaurant, right? And they say, basically, you pay us this money and we will protect you. And the question is, hey, who are you protecting us from? Well, if you don't pay it, okay, I'm not going to swear, but we're going to kill you, basically. We're going to extort you. So it's extortion money. So if you would compare this to other societies, if you go back to 1994, I think, in South Africa, you had apartheid, where you had different rules for different people. So I just have one pamphlet. It should be from that time, where you had, for example, here, no African may buy land and own property anywhere in the Republic. So here you see you have different rules for different people based on different categories. That is jizya for you guys. Let's continue. What is the purpose of jizya according to Islamic scripture? Well, I'm going to show you here what I found. Let me see. Yeah. So according to Quran 29:29, it says here, you fight them until they pay the jizya and feel themselves with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. So submission is very important. Another hadith here you see, according to Muwatta Malik, 1746 says the following: Zakat is a tax for Muslims, is imposed on the Muslim to purify them and to be given back to the poor. And by the way, it's only poor that are Muslims, and I have other hadiths if you guys would want to see this. But let's continue. Where the jizya is imposed on the people of the book to humble them. So we're seeing that it's basically the same thing shown in different hadith and different verses. And if you go to another passage here, it's Quran 57:25. It's a tafsir by Ibn Kathir. You see the following, what Muhammad is saying here. The Messenger of Allah said, remember, we are looking for the purpose of jizya. It's not just tax. The Messenger of Allah said, I was sent with the sword before the hour, basically before the judgment day, so that Allah will be worshipped alone without partners. My provision was placed under the shadow of the spear. And those who defy it, basically those who don't want to be Muslims, or are Muslims and are basically Coca-Cola light Muslims, those who defy my order will be disgraced and humiliated. And he who imitates the people of people is one of them. Basically, you have to be loyal to the Islamic way of life. So it's saying here, basically, if you don't agree with me, you'll be humiliated. And this video is beautiful. It will beautifully illustrate my point. He will tell you exactly what jizya is. Jizya is basically, you got to make sure that you impose this on people, but then there will come life rules. And the point here is that you're going to humiliate them in such a way that the life is so degrading that they will say, hey, this life is not worth living. Let's just convert and become one of them. So here it is.
Open Bukhari, you will find a hadith that if you find a Jew or a Christian walking down the street, push them to the side. It is well known from what Umar ibn al-Khattab and the Khulafa Rashidin used to implement, that the Jew and Christian was not allowed to ride on a horse when the Muslim is riding on the horse. They will have to walk. Allah, He said in the Quran about the jizya, that fight the people of the book. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, it's in the Quran, fight the people of the book and those who do not believe that what Allah has made lawful as lawful and what Allah has made unlawful as lawful, until they pay the jizya and feel themselves subdued. The purpose of the jizya is to make the Jew and the Christian know that they are inferior and subjugated to Islam. Okay? In the Muslim state, although the Jew and Christian is free to practice their religion, this is allowed, but they cannot display their cross. And even in the time of Umar, they were not allowed to reconstruct or construct new churches. All of this is to create an atmosphere where it is encouraging the people to come to Iman and Islam.
Yeah, I like
All
the
right, so as you
encouraging.
heard, all of this is to create a climate for people to say, hey, this is not worth it. All right, so let's now find out what Muhammad himself said. Is the sound working, by the way?
Yeah, it's all
I
going
just
well.
want to add, I love how he used the word
Can you guys hear
encouraging.
me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Like, instead of saying forcing them, he say encourage them.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's right.
That is Islamic newspeak.
Yeah. Can you hear us okay? Taqiyya?
Yeah, my volume was down, so I
Okay, go
apologize for
ahead.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to show a couple of examples from Muhammad that it's not just evil people doing it through history, because you should not blame Islam if Muslims use drugs or alcohol. That's them acting on their own desires. So every time that you see Muslim behaving in a certain way, you got to match it with Islamic scripture. If it's not in line with that, then they're acting on their own desires. But when they're acting according to scripture, that's very Islamic. So in Tirmidhi 3, volume 3, book 19, Hadith 1602, or you can just do 1602. You see the following. Muhammad is saying the following, not me, The Messenger of Allah said, do not precede the Jews and Christians with a salam. Salam is another word for say hello, peace be upon you. It's a nice way to say hello. So don't say that. But if you meet them in the path, basically on the road, you got to force them to the narrow portion. You got to push them. And then it continues saying the following. The Muslims are ordered to humiliate them. And this one is the Sahih. Another example, Sahih Muslim 1942-94. Fight in the name of Allah, and in the name of Allah, fight those who disbelieve in Allah and make a holy war. And if you just go down in the hadith, say the following. Here's a step how to do it. First, you invite them to accept Islam. And before I continue here, you got to know that the first generation Muslims, they went from Saudi Arabia, Mecca, Medina, up to Syria. They invaded Syria, they invaded Iraq, they invaded Jerusalem, they invaded Lebanon, they invaded Egypt, Libya, Morocco. Spain was a little later. It was around 50 years later. They went to Iran, Afghanistan. This is the first generation Muslims, So this is how they spread the faith. It wasn't, trying to convince people. They took this sword and says, either you do the following here. So you invite them to accept Islam. First point. If they respond to that, then you accept it from them and you desist from fighting them. Point number 2, if they refuse to accept Islam, you demand from them jizya. So here you're saying to them, like the mafia is saying to restaurant owner, hey, either you join us or we take money from you or we're going to kill you. And if they agree that you have to pay, agree to pay, then you accept it from them and withhold your hands. And here comes the third step. If they refuse to pay the tax, then seek Allah's help and fight them. And this Sahih Muslim, as you see the source. Another example from Muhammad. Do not even eat with them. He's talking about disbelievers. Abu Sayyid narrated that Allah's Messenger said, do not accompany except with the believer. So don't be part of them. Do not engage with them unless they are Muslims, and do not serve your food and accept to one with taqwa. And taqwa is more piety. Basically, you try to spread Islam and talk about Allah. So that's one way of proselytizing. Here's another one. This one is Sahih. Here's another one. This one is Hassan. The Prophet says, associate only with the believers and let only God-fearing man eat your meals. I could show this clip. I'm actually going to show this clip because it's powerful to see that these people actually get their ideas from somewhere.
Humiliate the kafir. What do you mean humiliate the kafir? Like I said, you never look up to him. You always look down to him. You look down to him like that. Hello, can I help you down there? Al-Islam ya'lu wa la yu'la alayh. Islam is superior and it could never be surpassed, because the Tawheed, it will always elevate you. Yeah, and this is why Al-Faruq, he said, Nahnu qawman a'izz Allah wal Islam. He said, we are a qawm who Allah, he dignified us with Islam. That's why you always walk with your head up high. Not with takabbur, with arrogance. Yeah, I'm like this. No, but this type of takabbur is allowed, to be proud that you are Muslim. Yes, I worship Allah the highest. Look at you. He worships the ants. He's worshipping the rats. This one, he worships his private parts. This one, yeah, he's a monkey worshiper, cow worshiper. Oh, he's having a shower, you know, underneath Hogu Bugu, whatever his name is, or you know what I mean? Some stupid animal like that. Nahnu Qawman, he said. Nahnu Qawman. We are Qawm who Allah dignified us via Islam, and the kufr, it would humiliate anybody. So to dishonor. So never give your food to any kafir. I never give my food to any kafir. That's right. I had some Takkans, they will come to work for me a couple of months ago. They're going to be coming, some new ones are coming now to work for me soon. We're going to pick them up for about 20 quid a day. Yeah? They came to work for me and they were in the garden. I don't offer none of my food. I sat there in my kitchen. I was eating my chutney masala.
You get the point, right?
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that you humiliate them. But also in the eye of the law, it says the following here. So if a Muslim do a crime against non-Muslim, they will not have the same punishment as if a non-Muslim does it to a Muslim. And here's an example here. The judgment that no Muslim should be killed for, equality in punishment, for killing a kafir, non-Muslim. So basically, it's apartheid, basically, based on their disbelief. Here's another one by Abu Dawood saying that the value for blood money is if you kill someone, then the victim family has the opportunity to say, here, either we get money for you, for killing our family members, or you're going to have the equal punishment. So the punishment or the blood money for killing disbelievers, can read the last sentence, it's only half as for a Muslim. So it's not equal. Number one is you got to make sure that you humiliate them, but also in the eye of the law, you don't have the same rights and the same punishments. And here's another part of jizya that you need to know. So disbelievers have to make sure that they have one way to show to the Muslim that they are not Muslims. And one way to do that is to wear a belt. And that belt is to show the Muslims that, hey, he's not one of us. We can degrade him and we can make sure that we can mistreat him. And that reminds me of something else in history, in modern history, actually. Yes. Around 70 years ago, we had Hitler, who made sure that the Jews had certain symbols on the clothes to make sure that they could recognize them. So this belt is called zunar, for those who have never heard this. Zunar. And you'll find this in Quran 9:29. You go Tafsir Ibn Kathir, who will explain this. All right, so now in Quran 9:29, it's wrong. Yeah, okay, I misspelled it. Yeah, it's gonna be 9:20. Okay, it's 9:28 and 29. Should I show it here or should I show it in Islamic webpage?
You can do it there. I mean, if that's pulled straight off there, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, I just quoted it. So Umar ibn Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, demanded his well-known condition met by the Christians. It's not just Christians, it's everybody who's paid the jizya. That these conditions should be ensured to continue the humiliation. So the goal is to humiliate people and then degrade them and disgrace. So I'm not going to read all of them. I think it's like 15 points. I'm going to read the relevant part. The first thing is that the disbelievers should not erect any monastery, church, sanctuary for mosque, or any place of worship. So remember that the Muslim in my previous slide says that, hey, America should impose jizya on Muslims. It's much more merciful. Should we close down the mosque or not even allow them to build mosque in the West? All right, that's just one point. Next one is a Muslim can come to your house. Let's just read this one. A Muslim, I'll just read the relevant part. Those Muslims who come as a guest will enjoy boarding and food for 3 days. So you have to open your house for 3 days. Any Muslim can come to your house and claim his place of living for 3 days. You gotta give him food and shelter for 3 days. Next point. Okay, point 3 is no spying. I'm fine with that. Number 5, let's take a look at this one. We'll respect Muslims. All right, that's good. Respect Muslims. That's fine. You got to move from your places where you sit in if they choose to sit in them. So basically, a non-Muslim have to stand up, give away his seat to a Muslim. And number 8, you have to make sure that you are identified. I told you about the belt, but it's even more than that. Here it is. We will have the front of our hair cut. So you got to cut the front of your hair to make sure that you look in a way that it is degrading, but also other people should recognize you. And you have to wear customary clothes where we are. That is basically what you're going to see now. You got to wear the belts around your waist. That is the zunah I told you about. Is there anything else? Okay, so the last point here is you'll see jizya being implemented today here. And I guess I'm having problem with the sound. I'll give it a try. Or, I mean, I'll show it when ISIS did it. I think that's fine.
Okay.
So this is from 2014. ISIS are just being loyal to the text. This BBC, I mean, this is as mainstream as you can get. And here is the relevant part.
Actually,
sorry,
they're quite left-wing in this country, so they're quite
yeah, of course. So they talk about the churches not allowed to be renovated and so on. But let's go to the relevant part of the nitty-gritty. Yeah, here it is. So the statement said that the group had to meet Christian representative and offer them 3 choices, just like Muhammad said. And they have to convert to Islam, accept ISIS condition, basically, jizya and live humiliating life, that, or reject that and being risk to be controlled, risk to being killed. Yeah, so this is what you're having. So this is in Iraq and Syria. And I had another slide here showing this happening in Pakistan or Egypt. And even here you see the Thomas Jefferson, basically the founders of America. They had to pay jizya as well, but since my sound is not working, you can take a screenshot and you look it up yourself. So yeah, that's all I had.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Was this the Thomas Jefferson? Was that when they were being attacked at Jefferson's time? I mean, I've heard that story where they were being attacked. And Jefferson asked them, "Why are you attacking us?" Is that?
Can I show the letter?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the letter from Thomas Jefferson had an ambassador who were talking to I think it was Moroccan or Algerian people, and they were like, "Why are you attacking us?" So this is the official government webpage of America, right? So this is not me making it up. You have the screen here.
Yes, make it a bit bigger if you can, so we can see it.
Here, I can send it in the chat as well. Should I do it?
Yeah, and I can post it for people to.
Yeah, let's have fun
as well. Yeah. And you can just read a little bit of that.
Yeah, I'll just read the relevant part. I think I'm finished with it. I'm fine with that. So this is from 1900 or 1786, right? So this is not when ISIS were born. I mean, America did not create the Quran or anything like that. You'll see that this is not a new phenomenon. So he's getting a letter from the ambassador of I'm not really sure what country it is, but it should be Algeria. Here it is, Algeria or Morocco. It's one of those two. I'm not really sure. But here's the response. So this is ambassador of America writing to the president of America, and that's Jefferson. So ambassador answered us that it was found in the laws of their prophet. This is what they are telling him, that it's written in the Quran that all nations who should not acknowledge their authority were sinners, and that was in their right and duty to make war upon them wherever they could be found, and to make them slaves of all they could take as prisoners, and that every Muslim man, basically Muslims, should be slain in the battle, were sure to go to paradise. Isn't that exactly what we're hearing?
Yes, that's exactly the example. I think that was Hitchens who originally gave that. That's where I originally heard it from as well. And obviously he was quoting this back in Jefferson's time, where the boats were being attacked and so forth, their merchant ships. And this was the response. Is it true then? Because Hitchens, if I remember correctly, Hitchens basically said, well, then Jefferson, went in with some force there to get rid of these guys. I don't know whether that
was the first battle.
That's the first Navy.
That was the first battle that the US ever fought, was against Muslims.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, that's the first Navy. So it's not a new phenomena, and I do believe that Muslims are better than what the Quran tells them to do. So I would just encourage you guys to, at least if you're a Muslim, at least look at it and just be honest. Could you do this, or could you stand next to them and say that I won't do it, but you're okay with them doing it? That would be my question. And since I have a Christian background, I do want to show when Christians are suffering from this today. Could that be my last clip?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. So here's a clip when it's happening.
Egypt killed 2 Christian men.
Oh, I apologize. Let me do it from the beginning. I didn't have sound for it.
Muslims in southern Egypt killed 2 Christian men for failing to pay them protection money. As CBN News reported earlier, Muslims in the area are demanding that Christians pay them jizya. That's a kind of tax that Islamic law requires religious minorities to pay Muslims. But the tax is so high, many Christians simply can't afford it. The Voice of the Martyrs reports that a Muslim man demanded a Christian in a village in Asut pay him $100. The Christian sought help from local police, but to no avail. When he failed to come up with the money, several Muslims went to his home and shot him and his cousin to death. International correspondent Gary Lane has been...
All right, so I think that's enough. It happens even to the Sikhs, so they don't really discriminate. It's more about them being, you know, superior. So, all right, thank you. I'll leave the mic for someone else.
What are you saying? Are you saying that taxes are theft?
Well,
okay, no, I just want to say thank you for this, well, pretty comprehensive insight into the legal Sharia, well, into the Sharia of what happens with non-Muslims. I don't think many people actually know about this. I don't think many people, and this is exactly what you said in the beginning. I like that very much when you said, okay, most people don't even look at Islam and there's no good reason to do so. So you are providing like a shortcut version. And this is something that I appreciate because a lot of people should be looking at it and they don't. So I think a repertoire like what you are providing here is a really wonderful and a very good idea. And I want to just thank you for all the efforts that you've done here. This presentation that you've done today, I enjoyed this because it was, you know, based on a topic, concise. It went into all the areas that were necessary without waffling about it. So I'm impressed.
Yep, great.
It
From
was
my
good.
side as well. Thank you so much for that. And there's some thanks in the comments coming through as well. You did say, I think you've joined twice there. Is that right? Oh, let me just bring him in. Hang on.
That is the other part of the many world.
Taqiyya, you've come in twice. I've brought you in there.
Yeah, twice. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So I don't know if you heard us there, but great presentation. Thank you so much for that. There's some nice comments coming in for that as well. So that was nice, and as Stop said, nice and concise, and it gives an outline for people to look in further. And of course, in your document, no doubt you've got that in there as well.
Yeah, I can share the presentation. I think someone asked for that in the chat, but sure, yeah, I appreciate that. I want to make sure that it's relevant, you know, to today.
Yes, if you've got that PowerPoint available, James is asking there. James is one of our colleagues that goes down to Speaker's Corner and challenges the Muslims quite regularly. So if you had a link to that, great. If not, that's fine then, James. The other thing would be this document. So here you go, James. I'll give you the link to the document. Oh, Stops has done it already. He's beat me to it. Taqiyya, you also said that you had a couple of Quranists that wanted to come and join. Are they still interested in joining us?
Yeah, they just asked for the link, so I just sent it a minute ago. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we'll have them join. I've got it protected in the sense that hopefully you'll know who they are, because sometimes, you know, if the link gets sent out and they share it or it gets shared somewhere else, then occasionally we have some trolls come on. So
yeah, I spoke to them about it. Don't share
cool.
it or I'll grill you.
Okay. Oh, brilliant. There you go. You have actually copied that. So there we go. Thank you so much for that. So, Thunderous, Abu, your thoughts on that? Anything you want to add?
No, it was good. That's a good introduction to jizya, I think. I was just thinking about, it's kind of funny because Patricia Crone talks about this, like how the jizya was implemented and how it created problem, because for the early Muslim or the Arab conquerors, the jizya was such a huge part of their kind of their economy or their finance, their way of living and so on through jizya. But the taxes got so high, so too many Christians converted to Islam, and then they got a problem because they run out of Christians that were doing the work. And another thing that the guy that said that kuffar should implement jizya on them because it's so nice. Like, first you have to have something to tax. Like,
yes,
you see what I'm saying?
I want to welcome Raz. I'm guessing Raz is one of our Muslim guests. Is that right, Taqiyya?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I don't know anything about anything about jizya, to be honest. So I'm gonna wait until unorthodox Moors come into the panel, if you don't mind.
Yeah, okay, no worries at all. Yeah,
Please.
that's fine.
I'm sorry.
That is absolutely fine. We do not have a problem if somebody says, I do not know something. None of us are walking encyclopedia. So if somebody says, hey, I don't know, I've got to look that up or whatever, I personally don't have any problem with that at all.
I thought it was quite good as well that when the guy was giving his description of the jizya.
Just make yourself a bit louder there, Thunderous. You're a little soft. I have put you louder, but you're still a bit soft.
Yeah, I just what's informative as well is when we're giving descriptions of what words mean. For instance, it's very easy to gloss over words like subdue. So it's not just over the jizya of paying the tax, but the person who's having to pay the tax is the requirement of Islam to make that person feel subdued. And a lot of people, they don't have the mental image in their mind of what subdued actually means. So I thought that the presentation that was brought today was handy and informative for people to get a mental image in their mind as to what it feels like to be subdued. It's not just about paying the tax. There's an image that goes with that tax as well, like a psychological image of what it imposes on the person paying the tax, the influence that it has. I was thinking as the gentleman was giving his presentation, it kind of reminded me of Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov, whatever his surname is. Conor McGregor had to tap out because he was subdued. So that's pretty much what Muslims want, don't they? They want the non-Muslims to tap out.
Let's see what our Muslim guests have to say. Whether they agree with that, or whether they feel there's certain conditions or anything along those lines.
But just on that, you're saying if there's any certain conditions, if they're happy with that, they would have to bring those conditions from the Qur'an or Hadith. They can't just make those conditions up because they're sitting in the West and it might not look nice in the West. That's what the requirements of Islam are. The requirements are the requirements, aren't they? Allah is, He made the the Quran easy to understand, a book made simple. It says there, chapter 9, verses 29, was it? About make them feel subdued, collect the jizya from non-Muslims.
That's right.
No requirements there from Allah, the very clear and informative God.
Good. I want to welcome in, I'm guessing this is the other gentleman that's joining us there. Taqiyya, I don't know if you can see it, just says the word the. So is that our other guest?
The more, yeah.
Yeah, peace. How y'all doing?
Hi, good evening to you. Is that the more? Is that your...
Yeah, the Orthodox more. The Orthodox more.
Hi, good evening to you.
More or more just works just fine.
Okay, good. More, yeah. The shorter, the easier, the better. That's perfect. More. Exactly. Good evening more. To you. Obviously, you welcome to the show. Jizya Taqiyya Watch has invited yourself and Raz to join us on the show. So primarily, obviously, we critique Islam. Hopefully, you've watched a little bit of it and the presentation that Taqiyya gave. So, what's your view on that?
First and foremost, I'm a Quranist, so I don't use the Hadith as a source of Islamic law. But so just getting that aside, I thought it was a very, very informative presentation. However, I disagree from the outset with his characterization of Surah 9, Ayat 29. First and
maybe
foremost,
between the two of you guys, you can have that conversation, and then we'll open it up a little bit more after that. Because let's initially stick to the jizya, and then if you guys are available and you wish to chat about, open the conversation a bit more, we can do that. So perhaps you guys can have that conversation. Go ahead.
Sure. Do you want me to respond?
Sure, go ahead.
So I do let Muslims define themselves, and it depends on what source you accept. So you say that you reject the Hadith, which makes probably 90% of my material for this presentation go away. But I would encourage you to start off with telling us how many percent of the Muslim population are Quranists, and then how would you address 929?
A very small percentage. However, I would stipulate this. So not only am I a Quranist Muslim, I'm also a Muslim of North African Jewish descent, and also North African Jews who lived in Al-Andalus and whatnot. And so I have a family history that ties to this. And so from a Quranist perspective, I look at it like this. In Surah 9, Ayah 29, it breaks down a couple of things. First and foremost, the jizya tax is something that's mutually agreed upon, right? It's something that people willfully take. It's not meant to be an oppressive concept, and it's only something that applies to people of the book, right? And when you look at the context of Surah 9, it has to do with people of the book who you've made a contract or you made a treaty with of some sort, and they've broken the treaty and that they're warring against you, right? So when it's talking about people who don't believe in Allah in the last day, etc., they're talking about people of the book who don't really respect the book or the scripture themselves. So they're people who would be hypocrites, right? In a lot of senses, right?
So I didn't mean to minimize you or anything like that. So I'll just first express my appreciation for Quranists. I do appreciate that you only take the Quran and you drop the Hadith. For those who don't know, the Quran, Hadith, and Sirah, if you take these three sources, the Quran is about 14%. So what he's saying here is basically he's dropping around 85% of the sources that I guess Sunni world accept. Is that correct?
Right. Now I consider myself a Hadith purist because the Quran calls itself the greatest Hadith, the best Hadith.
Sure. But let's just, so this is my appreciation, So if you can get Muslim to only use the Quran, I think that's a better state of mind. So I'm not trying to minimize you in any way. But when I asked you the question, how many percent are Quranists, my intention was to make sure that we know that, hey, is it 20%? Is it 5%? I do know the answer. It should be around 1 to 2%. It's a very small number, and I think that's important. We know what we're talking about. So small could mean 8%. It could mean 20%. It is 1 to 2%. And
it might even be than that.
Yeah, but I would wish that more people think like you that are Muslim. So this is where I start. And my question would be, the next question would be, when it comes to Islamic history, where do you get your source from?
Just history in and of itself. So
okay.
So well, real quick, I want to point out something that I actually like the hadith that you point out and a lot of the history that you point out, because I think there's a lot of, and for my brothers who accept the hadith, I don't reject the hadith. I don't use them as a source of jurisprudence. So for my brothers who use the hadith, I don't have an issue with that. My only thing is that I like to see you bring it back to the Quran and see if you can show me what you're talking about in the Quran. So when you're talking about the jizya and whatnot, I'm not really tripping on that because you can find that in the Quran. However, historically, you can see different applications of it. And that's kind of what I want to talk about a little bit. Because, for instance, I was talking about like the Moorish aspect of Spain and the Jews there, right? Because I come from both lineages.
So before we go in there, because that's next point, I just want to clarify for those who might think I'm talking, without sources. This is Bill Warner, who has quantified the Quran, Hadith, and Sirah. So when I said 14%, I really meant 14%. He have counted the words and basically chapters, everything. So he's quantified it. So the Sirah is 26%, Hadith is 60%, and the Quran is 14%. So the Quranists take the 14% and says that basically our knowledge about Islam should derive from this trustworthiness or source that is trustworthiness. So I just want to point that out. And when it comes
I'm
to
a minority amongst the Quranists and themselves, because I also accept the previous scriptures like the Torah, the Zabur and Injil.
Yeah.
And I actually use those as a set of hadith as well.
So the next thing we know about history, we use Islamic sources as well as non-Islamic sources, So this is basically how Islam spread the first 100 years. I mean, it was from Mecca, Medina up to Middle East, I guess. It's Lebanon, Jerusalem, Syria, Iraq, If you go to the right, you will have Afghanistan, Iran, even China, India. And then if you go to the left, you will have Morocco, you will have Egypt, you will have Algeria, and up to Spain, you know. So this is the authentic, or the first 3-generation Muslims. Would you say that they were doing something in line with Islam, or were they going against Islam in your understanding?
So this is what I wanted to talk about, because there's a big historical misconception about the spread of Islam and about the schools of thought, for instance. So again, like I was saying prior to that, I come from a Moorish and a Jewish lineage, right?
So can you explain what Moorish is? Many people don't know what that is.
Moorish is just a North African, Northwest African Berber concept. But there was a Moorish Empire, etc. You know, the Moors that took Spain, 711 AD, etc. It's an ethnicity, nationality.
Conquering Spain, would you curse them for doing that?
Yeah.
I'll curse
the
ancestors of
no.
Europe.
So this is exactly what I want to talk about. So one of the reasons why I am Cronist is the fact that my ancestors who took Spain, when they took Spain, there was no madhab at the time. They went there on the invitation of the Jews, and the Jews had a fantastic time under that Islam for 400 years. It switched up when the madhabs came in and whatnot. You know what I'm saying?
So Americans were invited to Iraq.
Wait a minute.
Hang on. Can you say that again? You are saying
again,
the Jewish people issued an invitation to the Moors and said, please pull in and subjugate us, conquer us?
Go check out the history. Go check out the history of the King Roderick and whatnot, right? They were not vibing that, right? So go check out the Jewish history. The first 400 years in Spain, yeah, they flourished in Spain. I just sent you a link, right? Go check it out. It breaks down this concept, the same thing I'm talking about, yeah. Because the Jews helped build Al-Andalus at the very beginning of it.
Could I bring up 2 points about what has been said? The first one is, you said until the madhabs arrived, but weren't they on the madhab al-Maliki when they conquered?
No. So again, when the Moors conquered Spain, right, the Maliki madhab had not been made yet. And in fact, the oldest madhab was like Abu Hanifa. From him, he was 12 years old at the time the Moors took Spain. 12. The madhab hadn't even started.
Okay, so when exactly did the Maliki madhab corrupt the Moors? Or the Moor?
I can't give you a specific year on that one. I'll tell you after 1050, things start switching up a lot. You'll start seeing a lot more infighting. You'll see a lot more sectarianism. You'll see a lot more subjugation of the Jews. You'll see a lot more of that type of stuff, right? But before then, like when we're talking about from when it first starts off, and for the first 400 years, right? You're seeing the Jews having
years. So you said that the Maliki madhab did not go into the conquered territory until 400 years later.
No. You said when did it corrupt, right? So I'm saying like the madhabs there was madhabs that started shortly after they got to Spain, but they went into Spain under no madhab. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, but this
wonderful rule. So Maliki happens after the
years.
It happens after Abu Hanifa starts his, right? So I'm just saying Abu Hanifa was 12 when they took Spain. So you're talking about a madhab that comes after the first one, right? So I'm saying the first one hadn't even started when the Moors got there.
I don't know. It's breaking up for me.
Can I ask a question?
Shoot.
You say you have a respect for the Torah, Zabur, and Injil. Can you just
100%? Yeah.
Okay, so your stand would be that the Torah, Zabur, and Injil haven't been corrupted, then, yeah?
Not in their original languages, no.
Explain that to me in their original languages.
So any Muslim will tell you that the Qur'an in any other language than Arabic is not the actual Qur'an. So I would tell you that the Torah in any other language in Hebrew is not the actual Torah.
Okay, the Jews wouldn't say that, and neither would the Christians. This is just obviously an Arabic polemic because one contradicts the other. But whatever language that the Torah, Zabur, and Injil is at the moment, what you're basically saying is you don't accept it because it's not in Hebrew, it's not in Greek. Yeah.
I don't accept the non-original language. Yeah, I don't like. I gotta deal with the Torah in Hebrew.
Even though
Allah
and Muhammad themselves didn't make that statement, you're just going along.
Didn't make what statement? Didn't make what statement?
That you have to follow these the previous texts in the original language. Allah did not say you have to understand the Torah in Hebrew. He didn't make that statement. He actually doesn't even say that about Arabic either. But anyway, the point I want to make is, just going on with the jizya, the nation of Israel at no point, whether its own people or any other people that wanted to become proselyte, imposed the jizya. Can you explain to me why Allah would impose a jizya on conquered people, which is something that he hadn't done with the Mosaic law?
Sorry, Thunder. Before you go on, the Quran talks about how Muslims should take their knowledge from the previous books.
Okay, then. Yeah, I know it says it should take knowledge, but when one book turns around and says Jesus died and the other one says Jesus didn't die, that's not knowledge. That's a contradiction. And you can pretty much say, with respect, that everything that's in the Quran is a bastardized version of what's in the Bible and what's in the Talmud. Yeah.
One could certainly make that argument, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So let's talk.
You agree with that? So the point I'm going to ask you.
No, I said one could make that argument. So let me speak on it real quick. So I'm also of a North African Jewish descent, right? So I confirm the Torah as my book as well, right? And in the Torah, you can clearly see that two things. One, the word jizya actually goes back to a Hebrew word izabon, which means to let go for a price. It's a sales tax, right? Two, right? The Israelites were less civil than instituting a jizya tax. When they took out the Canaanites, etc., like they weren't told to do that type of stuff, and they didn't do that type of stuff, man. They just killed and pillaged and ran people out.
Okay, I think I don't know where you're getting your history from, but I think you're probably getting it from.
This would be the Torah, right?
Okay,
you're familiar when the Israelites go into the land of Canaan.
I'm also familiar with that. It took about 200 years.
Okay,
for the Jews,
so I'm just saying. So we can look at the Torah and clearly. Hold on. Easy.
We're talking about jizya.
Right, and so what I'm saying is, so you said why
speak one at a time, please.
Uncle Mo, go on. I'm asking from the Mosaic law, can you identify anything? I'm not asking about what the Jews did or didn't. I'm asking you from the Mosaic law, where did the God of the Jews ask for some kind of imposition of a tax on non-Jews? And when you don't find it, can you explain to me, if it's the same God, why did he want this tax imposed on non?
So any non-Jew who was living amongst the Jews would have to pay the same tithe that the Jews paid.
They didn't. They were told to live as their brothers. That's actually a lie. And to prove that, I'll ask you to show me somewhere in the Mosaic law where it says that they had to pay a tax.
Show me where they're exempt from the tithe, because the tithe is everybody in the land.
Hold on a minute. The tithe was a contribution to the temple, as you would know. That was for everybody to contribute. So 1/10. I think it says in the book of Malachi, bring in 1/10 from your storehouses, and I'll pour out a blessing until there's no more want. I think that's in Malachi chapter 3. Right now, I know you don't accept the book of Malachi as canon.
I do accept the book of Malachi 100%.
You do, but that's not Torah, Zabur, or Injil.
It is part of the Torah. So if you actually look at the technicality,
the Torah is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and Numbers. That is the Torah. So I don't know where
so that's your opinion on what the Torah is. It's not what the Torah actually is. The Torah is the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High.
The Jews and the Christians and history. Man.
Okay. So I got a question then. So in Genesis 26:5, I believe, is it lying when it said that Abraham kept the Torah?
He didn't have a book. No, Moses wrote the book, and Moses came well after Abraham.
So the book itself says that Abraham kept the Torah. So I'm just trying to tell you, brother, you might not understand the concept, because the concept of Torah is just the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High.
But he didn't have a book. He didn't even have a law.
It says very clearly in the Hebrew that he kept the Torah in Genesis 26:5.
But stop trying to play the strawman and answer the question first. I'll come back.
I'm not playing the strawman. Hold on, brother. I got a question. I got a quick question. Quick question. Are you Jewish by background or by faith or tradition?
Irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant.
Of course, it's irrelevant. It's got nothing to do with.
It's not irrelevant.
My stand has got nothing to. I'm asking a simple question from a historical point of view.
You're trying to tell me my tradition. It's not irrelevant.
What I do, what I think, and where my background is, what my stand is now is completely irrelevant to the discussion.
So I understand that some people believe the Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible. I understand that. What I'm trying to tell you is via the Hebrew of the Torah itself, it means the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High. Hence, it says Abraham kept the Torah, and obviously, the Torah is not the first 5 books of the Bible.
I'll come back to you on that one. I'm asking for the 4th time now. Where in the Mosaic Law does the God of the Jews demand non-Israelites to pay a tax, a burden tax, and to feel subdued? And when you don't find it, can you explain why the Allah, who's supposed to be the same God, is asking non-Muslims to pay this tax?
So check out the context in Surah 9, right? In Surah 9, the context is people of the book that you've made a treaty with that violate the treaty and make war upon you. Yeah? In the Torah, what happens with that is, again, go look at the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Jebusites, all them, right? The Perizzites, all them cats that get ran out the land of Canaan, right? The Israelites aren't told to do a jizya tax on it, right? They're told to just run out, kill, and pillage. You feel me? They weren't told to be as civilized as instituting a jizya tax on people who mean you harm. And for the people who willfully become part of the nation, hold on. And for the people who willfully become part of the nation of Israel, which you can do, right? If you want to be a stranger dwelling amongst the people, strangers dwell.
Were the proselytes imposed with the tax?
They were imposed upon. Hold on. So check this out. So again, like I said, to start off with, the word jizya, right? You can find it with a Hebrew base, is yabon, right? And you can find this in the Torah, right? It's a sales tax. It means to let go for a price, right? Yes, they paid a sales tax.
A sales tax.
And again, hold on. And again, in Surah 29, in Surah 9, ayat 29, right? The jizya tax is something that the people who are paying it willfully agree to pay. It's not meant to be an oppressive thing. The humbling aspect is of the fact that you did wrong by being people of the book and going against your word and going against people of the book and the law of God.
Do I have to ask a question in Urdu or something in another language? Because I'm asking for the 4th time now. Can you explain?
Ask it again. Go ahead.
Why is there no imposition of a tax or a burden upon non-proselytes in the Mosaic Law, yet we find Allah wanting this imposition of a burden tax on non-Muslims? And why has he put that there?
So it's not non-Muslims. It's specifically people, again, go look at the tail end of Surah 9, ayat 29. It can only be imposed upon people of the book who violate their own scriptures against people of the book.
Okay, so I've been away for a second. I mean, are you for colonization? I mean, going into Spain based on their belief or disbelief? Are you standing behind that? Because I will curse those who did the slavery.
I'm for it. Again, I descend from the...
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Can I just finish my thought? Because I will curse those who colonize half of Africa. And I would say that was absolutely wrong. And your response for those who colonize half of Africa, Middle East, even part of Europe, and even Asia, what's your response?
So, again, I'm specifically talking about my family history. I'm talking about the Moors and the Jews, yeah? So I don't curse the Moors going into Spain at all, because the Jews were following the Torah in doing so, right? Again, I descend from both sides, yeah? I descend from the people who act like, so again, go check the history on it, right? The Jews weren't conquered, right? They literally helped the Moors come through. They opened gates, etc. Yeah, and they did so based upon account. So the Moors at the time, if you look historically, they're called Moabites, etc. Yeah. When you look at Isaiah 16, the first 4 or 5 verses, it breaks down the fact that when the Israelites are in captivity, they're supposed to go dwell amongst the Moabites for safety, right? They did that. They followed their own scripture. They said, "Come on through. We would much rather be under your. We would much rather dwell under you, and be in safety than be under the Christians. We were catching hell under the Christians." Go check the history.
Okay, hold on. So maybe we'll have a Sunni or a Shia who will open up the gates for America to invade Afghanistan, Iraq, and whatever, you know. Like, do you see the similarities?
No, there's nothing.
You don't see it.
So check this out. I'm not for any kind of offensive jihad or any kind of violence toward anybody in the name of anything other than self-defense, right?
But that's not self-defense. If they go into 30 countries, they went into half of the known world. Because I actually have literature when they actually invaded Spain. So let's have fun.
Let's do it.
All right. So let me just get it for you. And yeah, if we just look at the first 100 years of Islam, they went into 30 nations.
So talk to me about Spain.
Well, it's the same principles. It wasn't an exception. Spain was just one of many invasions. They took the sword and say, hey, I mean, it was, do you know who invaded Spain, right?
Okay, so let's go into it like this, yeah? So West African and North African Islam look mad different than the rest of the world because they follow a different tradition, right? The tradition you're talking about comes from a tradition I don't accept, right? I come from the school of thought from Abraham and Nazim, right? He goes back to a school of Basra and the Mutazila, right? He's part of a rationalist school of thought. He rejected the concept of consensus based upon the fact that the Sahaba were fallible people because they had fit. You feel me? That's a big concept.
I'm not really feeling you,
okay.
But I'm listening.
No, so check this out, right? They rejected the concept of consensus of the Sahaba because they had fitna. They're fallible people, right? Fallible people. You can't put the sins of fallible people on a religion, yeah? Muhammad didn't do what you're talking about. He didn't spread no crazy 30 country thing. That didn't happen with Muhammad, fam.
Well, Muhammad actually sent letter to over 10 nations. We have the letters today, actually.
Okay.
Either you convert or you pay the money, or my soldiers will come and invade your nations.
Under the context of what?
What do you mean? It's over 10 nations.
Under the context of what 10 nations?
I am Allah. I am Allah's messenger. Do you want me to show the sources?
Yes, please. Because again, we're talking about Surah 9, Ayah 29, right? If you're talking about the Prophet,
now we're talking about
let's break it down, right? Right, but under the context of Surah 9, Ayah 29. So are these nations Christian nations, Jewish nations, etc.?
Non-Islamic nations. Yemen, Iraq, Egypt, India.
Not non-Islamic nations. Not non-Islamic nations, yeah? Because what you mischaracterized very heavily at the very beginning of all this is that Surah 9, Ayah 29 says, you can put this jizya on anybody who's not Muslim. And that's not what it says. The specifics of Surah 9.
That's not what I said.
That's exactly what you said.
So give me a chance to refresh your memory.
You literally said anyone who's not Muslim.
No, that's not what I said. I actually have a slide here. So
exactly
let's call you out for your, I don't know if it's deception or if you just have bad memory. So let's do it. It's actually quite fun. I actually have my PowerPoint here.
Just before you do it, can you give me that Genesis scripture about Abraham? I just want to have a quick look at that.
About what?
That Abraham had the Torah.
I believe it's 26:5. It might be 25:6.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Taqiyya Watch. I've put you on there, and your presentation is viewable. You're muted at the moment, though.
Oh, I was speaking in vain.
Yeah. Try again.
Okay, so dhimmi is someone who is a third or fourth or fifth or sixth class citizens for not being a Muslim under Islamic State. So I said very clearly, it's the Jews, Christians, Zoroastrians, and Sabians that have the right to have this privilege to pay money, or else you kill or you convert to Islam. But in history, they have made an exception for Sikhs. So please quote me correctly. Do you want to respond to that?
So anybody who wants to go check out the beginning of the video, right? I'm either lying or I'm telling the truth. When he breaks down the beginning of verse 29, he literally says, anyone who's not Muslim. Then later on, when he starts breaking down the hadith, he starts clarifying what he's saying about the dhimmis.
Well, all right.
The tape will prove one of us to be a liar.
Well, people can go back and look for themselves. If I'm mistaken, I'm making clear right now.
If that's what you meant, I accept that. If you meant just the people of the book of dhimmis, I accept that.
That's fine. I think there should be room for people.
However, what I don't accept is you talking about being like. Yes, because what I don't accept
when I'm speaking, right?
I'm clarifying.
You're not going to interrupt when I'm speaking, right?
Yo, hold on. Why the hostility?
Point real quick?
We're having a discussion. You don't have to get hostile, Taqiyya, man.
Am I hostile?
Okay, one at a time. Go ahead, Taqiyya, and then respond if you would more.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so, there should be room for people to update the statement and clarify. I think that's fine. And when you speak, if I interrupt you, let me know. I'm fine with that.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so the simple clarification that I want to make is that the whole 4th, 5th, 6th class citizen thing you're talking about is not in the Quran, right? And this is why I want to heavily break this down. So I agree with you in the sense that people, when they interpret things in an extreme format via some interpretations of hadith, that's a bad form of Islam, and I don't endorse that in any way, shape, or form. That's why I'm specifically talking about a form of Islam that did not have a madhab talking about these hadith or X, Y, and Z, right? That we take our jurisprudence from these hadith X, Y, and Z, right? And that's why I'm specifically talking about in that situation, right? You can see the difference in how the Jews were dealt with versus people who were strongly within the madhab structure 400 years later, oppressing the hell out of the same Jews. So I'm not disagreeing with you on the extreme concepts that you're talking about, okay? But I am disagreeing with you on. Hold on. I am disagreeing and saying that they're in the Quran.
Can I respond?
Go ahead.
Let's have fun, all right? So let's go beyond my opinion and our friend here opinion, and let's find out what historians are saying about how beautiful it was when Sharia law was imposed on the disbelievers, the filthy infidels. So this one is written by a professor from the university I think it's a Spanish university. And the book is called The Myth of the Andalusian Paradise, when Muslim, Christians, and Jews under Islamic rule in medieval Spain. Let's have fun. So first of all, you gotta remember that they were invaded, right? They took the sword by Mr. Tariq ibn Zayd. He took the sword, went in to the coast and burned all the boat. Oh no, he went over the sea, of course. And then he told the Muslim, "Hey, we're gonna burn the boat. We're not gonna go back. Either we're gonna go and take over, or we're gonna be killed and we're gonna have our 72 virgins." Tariq ibn Zayd, remember that? All right. And Berbers, of course, they are mentioned here. Is that you guys, Berber?
Yes, sir. 100%.
Right. So we have his name here. So the professor's not lying. You do exist. All right. So one of the things that we know here, that the first generation Muslims, they took a lot of slaves. Let's just read this one. It's historical information, right? So young females, sexual slaves were taken, and sometimes as young as 11, and male children were castrated to become eunuchs, which means that they could not have children. So they took the sword and said, "Hey, put up your private part, and let's take your balls and let's cut it off," right? And you do support this. This is the first generation Muslims in Spain.
I support what on who?
The first generation Muslims did this to the Spanish people.
To who? What people? You saw there's a bunch of people
non-Muslims that they took over there in Andalus.
Not some of the big group of people. If you're saying they did this to Jews, give me a source. If you're saying they did this to so-called Spanish Christians, give me a source.
Yeah, this is the source.
No. You're just saying non-Muslims, fam. That's like the most generic term in the world. Like everybody in the world who's not Muslim.
So let's keep on reading, all right? Let's just find out what they are actually showing here. So white slaves, especially blonde ones, were captured in raids in Christian lands, and they were most expensive. You had to pay the most amount of money. So in the year 912, in Spain, where there was invaded by the people you agree with, during the Islamic golden age of Umayyad Caliphate in Cordoba, the price of a male black slave was about 200 dirhams, coins in silver. Hold on. And a black girl from Nubia went from 300 dinars of gold. And a white girl without education cost about 1,000 dinars of gold. A white girl with singing abilities cost about 14,000 dinars. So she's quite expensive, right? And Ibn al-Rahman III, he was the caliph, like we have caliph today of the ISIS. I mean, they just have the same position, even though they disagree with each other. And he had around 3,550 slaves, and in his harem he had 6,300 women. And in his army he had around 13,750 slaves. And I guess this is the first, 3-generation Muslims in Spain that was invaded. What do you think about this? This is when they actually have Islamic law implemented.
Okay, so are you familiar with what initiated all of that? About the King Roderick? Are you familiar about what initiated all of that? Right, in the sense that King Roderick raped a nobleman's daughter who went up there to get educated.
Yeah, I know about that. Yeah.
So okay, so again, so you're talking about a barbarous people, yeah, who say that they follow the book, yeah.
Quran. Yeah,
I have it. No. These Christians, the people of the book, right? Like the Injil is part of the book, fam.
Are you talking about the victims of colonization, right?
So Surah 9, right, breaks down the fact that you're talking about people who say they follow the scriptures who are hypocrites, who don't actually follow the scriptures. Go read the surah, fam.
They took the sword into Spain.
Do you mean
different civilization? What are you talking about? Hold on.
I think you mean.
So let's slow this down real quick. So the Christians in Spain.
Let me respond. Can I respond?
No, because you made a statement. I'm responding to you.
Well, you said something, and I will respond to that, and then you can have the chance to respond. All right.
Go ahead.
So hold on. So let's say that they are totally wrong. Are you okay for invading people for having a different opinion and different lifestyle than you?
No, that's not why they were invaded.
Why were they invaded?
Just admitted. You just admitted what initiated the whole thing.
Well, let's hear it.
Like you just admitted that the initiation of this whole thing was the fact that a nobleman's daughter went up to Spain to get educated and she was raped. King Roderick did the raping. Eh? So the invitation was sent down. Yes, was sent down from cousin to cousin. Fam, these people are These people are related historically. You got to understand this. Yeah. Again, easy. So the Jews are in subjugation to the Christians in Spain. Yes, they're already living in captivity in Spain under the Christians. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm
historically,
sorry, my man.
Historically, yes or no? Historically, yes or no? This was happening.
I don't understand, my man. Okay, hold on. Can I respond if you finish?
You're saying invasion. I'm saying they were being liberated.
Liberated, of course. So let me tell you, when the Indian nation was liberated, it's around, because Spain you had Sharia law for 800 years. Is that correct?
Roughly.
Yeah, it was 780 years to 800 years. Your Sharia law invaded or liberated, right? Hilarious.
And also subjugated.
Hold on.
And also subjugated.
Yeah, hold on. I gave you time to speak, right? So calm down for a second. All right. So when the same principles invading Indian nation, it's one of the worst genocides, if you guys haven't heard it. It's around 80 million were killed. One day, 100,000 people were beheaded. Women were taking their own life to avoid that Muslim would follow Quran 23 verse 5 to 7, where you can have 6 slaves. You can have like this source that I'm showing right now. Can you guys see my screen, by the way? Yeah, you see that they had 6,300 women as your 6 slaves. This is Quran 23 5 to 6. 80 million people were killed, liberated from the disgusting kuffar life.
So maybe hold on.
I'm not finished. Calm down.
You're not talking about Spain. You're not talking about Spain.
Let's have fun.
You're not talking about Spain. No, you said you wanted to talk about Spain. I am having fun with you.
Damn, he's not ready for this. You're filthy kuffar. Maybe we should go to your house.
You did say that you were talking about Spain, though. Like you said,
hold on, Roz.
He has said many times that he doesn't condone.
Let him go. Roz, let him go. He can do as much rope as he wants to hang himself. Go ahead.
You filthy kuffar. We should come to your house and liberate you and take your sisters and daughters and wives as sex slaves. That's what you're saying, by the way.
Let me just check if
No,
I
it's
can
not what I'm
understand
saying.
something more. Am
Okay,
I-
so hold on. So he stopped addressing. I stopped to let him speak. He stopped addressing the point. He's now going to homonyms. So now I'm going to address the point. So you obviously were not trying to deal with the point I was making. So I'm gonna keep it very clear. Now I'm gonna get greasy with you, yeah. So, like I said before, you cannot put the imperfect actions of people on a religion, right? So you say you're a Christian, yeah?
Yeah.
You're a Christian, yeah? So do you endorse everything that happened in the Reconquista? 100%.
Yes, we need another one, by the way. We need a Spanish Inquisition to clear out certain areas. Yes.
What about colonization?
You endorse everything, and so explain that via your scripture why it works, because your scripture does not do nothing
It's not
like
scriptural. No, it's not scriptural. Spain took back their nation by very barbaric methods. Of course, I don't agree with
their
all of it.
nation. When was it originally Spanish?
Well, it was the people there, of course. So do you
when did it start being Spanish? Give me the date.
What do you mean? I mean, the people lived there and they were invaded. Maybe it was called
When
something
did it
else.
start being Spanish? Give me the date, sir.
Maybe it was called something else, but it's still the same people. So
No, they invaded
there,
there, sir. They Rome invaded there, sir. No, because you're full of no, because you're not talking actual facts and history.
Well,
so again, I just go easy.
Right?
So yeah, yes, you're going to hang yourself because again, like I said, I descend from the North African Jews who were living there, fam, who were already there, living in subjugation with the Christians, who almost decimated them, which is why they sent for a liberating force they were related to via Isaiah 16 in the Torah, sir. If you're a Christian, you should know this text.
It's not my show, you know. It's not my show. I don't want to mute you.
If you're a Christian, you should know this text. If you're a Christian, you should know this text.
There are troubles with both. Like,
okay, Abu, I want Abu to come in here, please. Abu, go ahead.
Okay, I think there are troubles with the history.
So your Christians were decimating my Jewish family, yes or no?
Just wait more. I just want Abu to come in, please. I've muted you for a moment. Abu, can you speak for me, please? Did you want to say something?
This about Spanishness, like this. This area has a complicated history because before the Moors came, it was under the control of the Visigoths, and before that, you have this like
Christian Visigoths.
Can you let him speak?
Excuse me?
Okay, so it was the Visigoths, yeah, they were Christians, and before that?
Yeah, but like what people was it? So it's a bit complicated. That's the whole point. But now I forgot the other point I was going to say. You made some historical claim that... I forgot it.
I wanted to understand Moore's point. His point was that it seemed to me, I want to make sure I'm representing it correctly, it seemed to me his point was, A, that these other people had lived there, the Jews and your ancestors had lived there, and they wanted to be quote-unquote liberated, so they asked for liberation, but you also talked about the fact that this princess went there and she was taken by the king, and that was a reason to invade. Am I understanding you correctly?
That was the reason for the liberation. She was Jewish.
Okay, so the king did he rape her? Is that what you believe?
Yes, the king raped the Jewish woman. Yes. Okay,
so
I want my Christian brother to say, do you endorse that action? Because that's the action that initiated what you say was not a liberation.
Okay, but is it a liberation?
Was that a good Christian action?
I'm sure he's going to say it's not a good Christian action. I'm just checking.
Well, he just said we need another Reconquista, so I don't know about that.
But do you think it's justified that if a woman is raped, that an entire country needs to be invaded?
So again, the people, it was an uprising of the Jews with the Moorish help. Yeah. The Jews via their own law can't run their own country. They had to be in captivity. Right. So they went to be in captivity via Isaiah 16 with their Moabite brethren. When you go check the annals of history, they call the Moors Moabites, yeah, in Spain all day. So they went to go live underneath their cousins, as it says to do in the Torah. Right. And when they did so, without any kind of Arabian influence for a while, they had a flourishing civilization. Paying the jizya tax.
Can I ask for clarification? They
had their own temple.
More, can you clarify something? If you are saying that the Jews asked the Moors to come in and subjugate everybody else to liberate them, and you are saying they did this via jizya or whatever something, what are you talking about?
What do you mean? What am I talking about? Help me out. Reframe your question for me. So check this. Here's let me clarify something real quick. So the brother, so the Christian brother made the claim that under the jizya and all this type of stuff that I couldn't have my own synagogue, I couldn't have whatever, right? You can go down right now.
No, that's not what he said. But this is besides the point. We're talking only about the invasion of Spain at the moment by the Moors.
Oh, okay, go ahead. So re-ask your question for me because I didn't quite catch it.
That there were Jews living in Spain. The Jews were being subjugated by the Christians, and they wanted to be
100%.
liberated. And the liberation of the Jews they couldn't do, so they sent for the Moors to come and invade Spain to liberate them. And they did this via jizya or something, and I did not understand that.
No. So again, the concept of they willfully paid the jizya tax because they're underneath Moorish rule, underneath Islamic rule, right?
No, before the Moors came into Spain, how did the Moors get into Spain?
They sailed across the water. Like I'm not catching. Why? Because of what I'm talking about. The whole King Visigoth, the King Roderick raping the nobleman's daughter, right? And then
there's one king who rapes one woman. Okay, a king rapes a woman, and this causes a Christian woman or something, and then the Jews.
This is after you. Yeah, go ahead.
And okay, I'm trying to get this whole story together, which in my eyes does not make sense somehow. So a woman gets raped, and then the king or some Jews then write something to the Moors, and then the Moors come in and invade Spain. Is that right?
So the Jews are getting pummeled in Spain at the time. It's not just the one rape
was getting raped.
No, not just one woman got raped. I'm saying this is the point in history that starts some stuff, but there's stuff that happens before that. Like I said previously, they're getting decimated by the same Christians. They're not under some just rule by the Christians. They're living under. It's a crappy situation for them. Yeah, this is the straw that broke the camel's back for them. So we can't take it no more. We're done with this. History stipulates, and like the link that I sent you from a Sephardic Jewish website, yeah, stipulates that they opened the gates for the Moors, and that they ruled with the Moors.
No, it was a Christian that opened the gate. It wasn't.
Okay, that doesn't.
Okay, so call the Jews liars, man. So the Christians opened the gates for their own takeover. Okay.
Yes, Christians disagree with each other. Yes, you have sellouts, of course.
Okay, I just like to understand the story.
So give me the history of what you're talking about, Pip.
Somebody sends for the Moors to come into Spain. This is a group of Jews who send for the Moors. Is that what you are saying?
I don't believe it was the group that went. I believe it was a particular. Hold on.
It was what?
I'm not specific. I'm not specific on how the information was transmitted, but basically the Moors are sent for, right?
The Moors.
And then there's two forces. There's two forces. There's two forces that go in, right? In 710, there's a really small force that goes to test the lines, right? They find out that the Jews are telling them the truth, that the Visigoths have weak defenses and that they're easy to take over. Then they go back into 711 with 10,000 people, right? And do the work, right? And again, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed people that my man. No, for the Jews, yeah. So here's what I'm saying. So the Jews are people. Hold on. So the Jews are people of the book, yeah. And so in the Quran, it stipulates that we're supposed to stand for justice, even against ourselves and our family and whatnot, right? And so we saw people of the book being mistreated by people of the book. So again, look at Surah 9, and again specifically the ayat that the dude's talking about, ayat 29. It's people of the book who are acting crazy.
Okay, and so they send a letter to the Moors, and the Moors then decide, let's gather 10,000 people together and go into Spain and liberate the Jews. Is that right?
Right. So Jews are people who are in captivity. They're like, so when you understand their religion or what,
they're in captivity
they can't
now.
So when let me finish what I'm saying, fam. So if you understand their religion, right, they've been cast out of their own land, right? So they're in a wandering phase until they get called back. They cannot have their own independent nation until then. This is the history of the Jews. This is their religion, right?
Of
So,
course.
Go ahead.
Hang on, let him finish.
Sorry.
So that being the case, right? They don't have the physical ability to liberate themselves from the Christians. So they're killing two birds with one stone. They go and get a force that can liberate them, and it's a just force who will treat them justly. So they get their own family people to come through who's obligated to stand with them via their Islamic religion. Obligated to.
Can I ask?
So the Jews knew that the Moors were Muslims.
Yeah, North Africa was Jewish for a long time, and a lot converted to Islam.
Okay, how did the Muslims get into Africa by self-defense?
They went into Africa on the north side of Africa. So Egypt, Tunisia, through the sword, but that's not the Jews. That's the Arabs. Yeah, the Africans. Yeah, were converted through trading. In fact, the Arabs tried to invade a lot of Moorish land like Mauritania, Senegal, Mali. They failed. They got pushed back by the Cato Empire. Yeah, and they took on Islam on a trading basis, not a conquering basis. No land in Africa, sub-Saharan African, and the north side of Africa to the left, yeah, was conquered by Arabs or by Islam. None.
Conquered. You're saying they were conquered, but they were this was in self-defense. So they were conquering in self-defense.
They weren't conquered. No, they weren't conquered. Like I will repeat, sub-Saharan Africa and the left side of North Africa was not conquered by Islam. It was never conquered by Islam. If you want to say it was, you need to provide your evidence, because I can assure you, the evidence will show that the majority of West Africa, North Africa to the west, Northwest Africa, took Islam on based on a trading factor. In fact, Bilal, who was a Sahaba, yeah, sent his sons to that part of Africa to spread Islam.
What were they trading?
They were trading gold because Mali and Mauritania were very, very highly rich in gold. So they were trading gold.
They were not just trading slaves; they were also trading commodities.
They weren't trading slaves. The slaves from that went to Arabia were from the east coast of Africa, not from the west coast and not from the northwest.
So why were they taxing the shit out of Egyptian Christians in Egypt?
Like I said, Northwest Africa and West Africa.
All right.
Hold on. Real talk.
I said Egypt.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
They're trying to put words in my mouth. I said Egypt, Tunisia, and some parts of Algeria were conquered by the invasion by the Arabs.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room real quick, because my man keeps trying to hold on. No. I just took the floor. I just took the floor. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, because you keep trying to change the topic from West Africa and the Moors and the Jews in Spain, because you keep wanting to refrain from dealing with the fact that your Christian people were the people who were fucked up in this situation and needed to get dealt with. And then you said that it was right for those sake. You said the same thing.
Hello, I'm not a Christian. Hello, I'm not a Christian.
Cool. I'm talking to the Christian brother then real quick, yeah? Let's talk about the elephant in the room.
At the moment, I'm talking to you at the moment because I was talking to Raz, because you were making the point that the people came into Spain and they came from Northwest Africa. And I said, well, how did you get into Northwest Africa? Then Raz
Northwest Africa and West Africa.
So, let's jump back on that, right? Because I made the previous point talking with the Christian brother, right? That you can't put the sins of imperfect people on a religion like that, right? Yes, and if you're going to do that, right? Hold on. If you're going to do that, can you please condemn the Christian brother equally for the rape of the people that happened on the Jews, right? And why the Moors go in this
Christian people for the rape of the Jews.
Hold on, guys. Let's not go into this wormhole of accusing people actions based on their religion, because we can all go through a Christian history. We don't want to go there. Let's stick to the point and let's try not to divert, because this is what has been happening since the debate started.
Right.
You've tried to divert things from Egypt, then you went to talk about the Arabs, then you went to say this. Let's just stick with the topic and be civil gentlemen. Please.
This was the
Right.
topic.
I'm not gonna put the rape of a Visigoth king on all Christians. You feel me? It's crazy to do that. It's crazy. It's not fair to do that. You feel me? And that's the point I'm trying to make.
And everybody's a witness that me and brother Mo have been very, very well respectful and very, very civil. But we've come onto this panel to have a discussion, a civil discussion with a bunch of gentlemen, I would say. So why can we not have the courtesy? And because we gave you the courtesy to be very respectful, and we didn't throw any ad hominems. We didn't be. We weren't.
Raz, we are having that discussion. Raz,
so please, let's stick to the point, and let's not divert. And let's not.
The point. We were talking about the jizya. We were talking about Spain. A conversation does progress, you know. So where we went is for Spain. So I'm trying to establish how come the Muslims went into Spain based on self-defense. That's what I'm trying to establish. Now, you said that they went into West Africa, into Northwest Africa, and they were doing it on the basis of trading. Okay, boof. Next topic. How did they get into the eastern part of Africa, North Africa? How did they do that? Well, you said that was really conquering, and they really
once again.
The shit out of those people there. So we've established that.
See what you did.
You're talking what I'm talking.
You're going to the spread of Islam. You're going from Jesus to the spread of Islam. You got to pick one topic.
Brother Mo, hold on a minute. Yeah, this is what I was saying. You brought up East Africa. You brought up North Africa. You brought up Egypt. We're not talking about this. This is not the reason why we're having this discussion. We're focusing on the Moors and the conquering of Southern Europe by the Moors in the first 400 years of the history. That's what we're talking about. Let's not divert, because we can. If you want to have the discussion, we could arrange to have the discussion another time. And brother Moore has already said to you many times that he does not condone the actions of the Arabs. He doesn't condone the actions of those caliphates or whatever. He wants to talk about a specific subject. Let's stick to it. Let's not bring East Africa, Northeast Africa, or let's not bring these topics up, and let's focus on the issue at hand, please.
And let's take it to its crux real quick, right? So you can go to any religion and find some spread of something crazy, right? And here's the basic point. You can't put that on the religion itself. You can put that on the imperfectness of the people, right? So here's what I'm saying. Either you're talking about you accept religion or you don't. I'm not asking anyone here to accept Islam, right? If you don't want to accept Islam, cool. I'm not asking you to, right? But at the same point in time, go ahead.
I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from. I'm trying to understand what it is that you are saying. Now, you've made some crazy assumptions. You've made some crazy statements I've never heard before, which I have, even though I have really looked at the area, I have never found it. I'm trying to understand where you are coming from, to understand if maybe I have made a mistake. And that's why I'm trying to understand where all this is coming from, where it originates from. And this is why, at the moment, you're not making any kind of sense. So I'm trying to understand what it is, where everything is coming from, and I'm going back in time. That's what I'm trying to do.
Like I previously told the Christian brother that I agree with him on the sense that the extremeness comes from interpretations of the Hadith. And what I clarified is that when the Moors took Spain, the concept of interpretations of a Hadith and how you use them in jurisprudence and all that type of stuff, that comes from schools of jurisprudence. Those schools of jurisprudence were not even in existence when the Moors took Spain.
Well, we all know that.
Islam,
cool.
Hold on. So I'm saying, so the Islam that which they used to rule Spain with is different than what people are talking about concerning either the certain acts of the Sahaba or whatever, or certain stuff that came after that with the institution of the schools of jurisprudence, right?
Okay, done.
And I'm trying to highlight the difference between the two, right? Because as a Quranist, like I said, I agree with the brother in the fact that there's certain extremes found in the Hadith that you can't run away from. Like, so you can't demand Jesus tax for a lot of stuff that he was talking about, right? And that's what I'm saying.
Can I go back to the...
Wait, Abu, let's stop, have a go, and then we come back to it. Just otherwise
we understand all that. We understand. We're not talking about hadith. I'm trying to understand where you are coming from. I understand where you are getting it from in the Quran. And I'm trying to understand how you are getting to the actions of the people based on the Quran, the way that we see them in history. We have the historic fact that the Muslims, the Moors, invaded Spain, and there was, I mean, I'm not going to talk about the atrocities there. I'm not going to talk about the killings there. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about Emmett Scott and what he found in the documentation from a historian's point of view. I'm going to leave all that aside. I'm just trying to understand where you are coming from an Islamic point of view, and the justification for Muslims going into Spain all the way from the Arabian Peninsula. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Okay, so the people who went into Spain weren't from the Arabian Peninsula. They were from West Africa. They were related to the people in Spain. And they went based upon the concept of we're obligated via the Quran to stand for justice. And if we don't, Allah is well acquainted with what we do.
And also, I would also want to add to something, the Islam that is practiced in many parts of Africa is very different from the Islam that is practiced in Arabia or anywhere else. There is a basis. And we need to put things in context, right? And this is why I didn't want to bring up Egypt, because I know it's undefensible what happened. I didn't want to bring Arabia or Pakistan or any of these places because it's very hard to defend. But what me and Brother Mo can defend on is the basis of these arguments that are about the first 400 years before the infiltration of I think it's the Abbasid or the I can't remember which caliphate.
Yeah, you're talking about the Almohads and some other people now more of it, etc. You know what I'm saying? Like again,
exactly.
It gets crazy. It gets crazy in Spain after 1015.
Exactly, and
but before the caliphate, you see a completely different thing.
Exactly, but for the first 400 years there was peace. But these Arabs, Muslims, came in and infiltrated the Moorish Empire, and then you see the fall. So I'm
not even gonna say it like that, right? I'll say it like so. Bottom line, sectarianism came in and split up the empire, right? The concept of sectarianism, the concept of battling over the schools of thought, right? The atrocities that we see in history that are done by the men that you see, right, are not done based upon the words of the Quran. They're done based upon opinions of people that came after the Quran.
100. Right, stop. You finish your point, and I would love to comment.
No, I'm done. Okay, that's it.
All right, so let me comment on that.
No, hang on, Abu was first.
Oh, Abu, go loose.
Okay. Can you please don't interrupt me before I come to my point. So I find it hilarious that you're bashing the Arabs, but wait a minute. The Prophet Muhammad was an Arab, and Islam originated in Arabia. So somehow it got from Arabia to West Africa. But that's another point. I just want to, if you're a Quranist and you're reading this verse in Surah At-Tawbah, this is the translation: fight those who do not believe in Allah or in the last day, and who do not consider unlawful what Allah and His Messenger have made unlawful, and who do not adopt the religion of truth from those who were given the scripture. Fight until they give the jizya willingly while they are humbled. How is this a voluntary exchange?
Until they give the jizya willingly, right? That's the voluntary part.
Yeah, they willingly fight them until they give jizya willingly. So you see, there's fighting.
So I have a question real quick. I have a question. So are you familiar with Surah 9 at all?
Oh yeah, I am.
So what's the context being given then? Because you keep saying something very key that you keep pretending is not.
But how can you say that there's a context? You only take from the Quran.
Can you please start?
I'm talking about the Quran. The Surah 9 is in the Quran, fam.
Yes.
We're talking about Surah 9 right now.
Yes.
So I'm asking you for the context, because you keep speaking like the context is not there, but you're saying it all day.
Okay.
You're talking about people. So go ahead.
Tell me about the context. You're a Quranist. How do you derive the context?
Okay,
so first, only source is Quran.
My only source for jurisprudence is the Quran. So, in the first few ayats of the surah, it's breaking down the fact that you're dealing with people who are people of the book who broke a treaty with you and are warring on you. Yeah. So ayat 29 is talking about, again, the people who don't believe in Allah, the messenger, the last day, who don't believe in what Allah said is forbidden, right? But they say they're people of the scripture. These are the biggest hypocrites out there. It makes sense?
I'm baffled that how can you derive this if you have no other, you can just by reading Surah At-Tawbah and you cannot get any context from hadith or seer or anything.
Can you
then
read
you
the
derive this.
Sorry, Abu, can you please read the whole surah for the viewers so that they can get a
the
bit
whole
of
surah?
Yeah,
because
because
براءة من الله ورسوله إلى الذين عاهدتم من المشركين فسيحوا في الأرض أربعة أشهر فسيحوا في الأرض أربعة أشهر واعلموا أنكم غير معجزي الله وبشر الذين كفروا بعذاب أليم إلا الذين عاهدتم من المشركين
That's not going to help anybody, Abu.
Anyway, but the point is, I know Surah At-Tawbah. I'm just baffled. How the bleep can you interpret this?
I'll let you be baffled, but I have a very basic reading comprehension, and it starts off by basically stipulating who they're talking to. And again, in the same ayah, and again with basic reading comprehension, you can see that it's these disbelievers of people who were given the scripture, who are making war on you, etc.
Are you deriving this only from this ayah? Fight until they give the jizya willingly. I don't understand. How can this be voluntary? I'm completely baffled.
So first and foremost, the covenant of treaty or whatever was a voluntary thing, yeah. At the beginning of Surah 9, right? Them breaking it and choosing to make war.
What exact word are you referring to in Surah 9?
Are you going to read the surahs like my brother asked you to, or what?
In English,
Well,
please.
I can
English.
do it again, but
No. Abdul, please don't play games. Just read it in English.
I'm not playing games. Okay,
Because I asked you to read it. I know that you can read the Qur'an. I know how you can recite the surah properly. I heard you before.
Okay.
So when I'm asking you, hold on, because we're not in Islamic TV right now, so we're on a English channel where people speak English and they understand. So please read from the beginning of the surah in English so that the viewers can get some context and let them decide
this
whether
is a declaration. I'm reading.
You're not reading. You're not. You start from the beginning and
I'm starting from the beginning. Do you not see my
screen? He's reading.
Okay, go ahead.
This is a declaration. Dissociation from Allah and His messengers to those with whom you had made a treaty among the polytheists. So travel freely, O disbelievers, throughout the land during 4 months, but know that you cannot cause failure to Allah and that Allah will disgrace the disbelievers. And it is announced from Allah and His Messenger to the people on the day of the great pilgrimage that Allah is dissociated from the disbelievers, and so is His Messenger. So if you repent, that is best for you. But if you turn away, then you know that you will not cause failure to Allah and give tidings to those who believe. Those who believe of a painful punishment. That was a weird translation. وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ, and give them how do you say? Bashirun.
Why are you going back?
That there will be
wait, hold on. Why are you reading? Read that part. Read that whole.
Because it was a weird translation.
Oh, it was a weird translation. I think we.
وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. How do they translate it? Give tidings to those who disbelieve. No. It was a good translation. Excuse me. It was a good translation.
So please go on.
So you got pagans breaking treaties, yeah, and then in Surah in Ayah 29, right? You got people of the scriptures who say
al-mushrikeen is the polytheists.
Yeah, the pagans.
Yes,
exactly.
So
Furthermore was correct.
How does this support what is happening in Surah?
And I was just jumping to the fact that so now you're talking about people. So the context is people who break treaties, etc. Right now you're jumping to people in Ayah 29, right? Who are people of the scripture who aren't being people of the scripture. So somebody asked me earlier something about like, do I accept the previous scriptures, right? And Muslims have an issue with that because there's certain ayats in the Quran that speak about certain people of the book corrupting certain scriptures, right? So there's also ayats in the Quran talking about that there will be people who make laws off of basis hadiths for entertainment, who play with religious law like it's entertainment. You feel me? So again, ayat 29 is breaking down a certain level of hypocrite. People who say they're people of the book and follow the scripture, but they don't. They reject it wholesale. They don't accept the law. They don't accept his messengers. They don't accept the last day. They don't accept what the actual scriptures say, but they say they follow the scripture. This is how you deal with the utmost of hypocrites, fam.
Okay, so you should impose the jizya on them at least.
So again, when you start raping my cousins and I go send for some other cousins to go get you the fuck out, I'm with that. I don't mind paying for that.
Okay, but you say here it says fight. Fight those who do not believe in Allah and the last day. ولا يحرمون الله ولا يدينون all these things. And then he says fight until they give the jizya willingly while they
now read this. Read the 4 or 5 words right before that, please.
Okay. Fight those who do not believe in Allah or in the last day, and who do not consider unlawful what Allah and His Messenger have made unlawful, and who do not adopt the religion of truth from those who are given the scripture. Fight until they give the jizya willingly while they are humbled.
So these are people who were given the scripture who reject what it actually says, and they do so like it's a game, fam. They reject it.
Okay,
so what's your issue? What's your issue with me fighting these people and making them live up to what they say?
But those who do what you're telling now, they are hypocrites. The jizya for them is justified.
1,000,000%.
Okay, good.
So again, any Christian in Al-Andalus, right, that paid the jizya, right, they had the right to practice their belief in any way that was proper for them, right? Nothing stopped with that, right? But what they couldn't do was rape and pillage like they were doing beforehand. I got no issue with that whatsoever. And props to my Jewish brethren for going to get the Moors to make it happen like that. Because when they did so, for a long time, they had the greatest time in history they ever had outside of Israel.
Can I ask a question? May I ask a question?
I mean, do you really believe this yourself? I mean,
I know it to be a fact, my dude.
This is hilarious.
I know it to be a fact.
Yeah, of course.
I know it to be a fact. You can laugh at it all you want, but you can't produce a shred of evidence against anything I'm saying. They haven't done so yet.
Yes, we can. You're talking absolute nonsense. How can
I'm
you?
waiting for you, my dude. I'm waiting for you, my dude. Go ahead. I'm waiting for you.
Okay.
Stop. Can I ask you a question? Stop. Can I just ask you a quick question? Yeah. Can you just provide the evidence to the contrary of everything he just said right now? Like, while you because there's more than 5 people on the panel right now. Yeah. You know, can Google or do the research real quick to find out whether or not he's saying rubbish or he's not. So can you just please provide your evidence?
And real talk, anybody in the chat, go check out my property.
Hold on. I'm not saying
one at a time, please.
Okay, so
hold on. I'm not saying. Hold on 1 minute. Yeah, I'm not saying. Yeah, that you guys come at him with your voices. Yeah, and saying, oh, that's absolute bullshit. You can't believe in all this. I'm asking you to go into your research and just quickly do a bit of Google and bring it up and disprove it. Instead of saying trial harmony and etc.
Let them do that.
May I ask a point, please? May I ask a point? So just so that I understand it, because I'm not a particularly bright person, the Christians were in control of Spain, as it were, and they were giving the Jews a hard time. So the Jews then sent a letter for the Muslims to come out and sort out the Christians who were giving the Jews a hard time. Yeah, that's your narrative. What I don't
more or
understand
less.
is, given the history of how the Muslims had treated the Jews, like the 300 or 600 that were slaughtered in a day, and how the Jews were driven out the land, why would the Jews call the Muslims who have a book that totally contradicts the Torah that they have?
Because you're talking about different people.
I got this one. Hold on, Roz, I got this one. So first and foremost, the Quran does not contradict the Torah in any way, shape, or form.
It does when it says that Adam and Eve were created in heaven, whereas the Bible's quite clear that Adam and Eve were created on earth. It talks about give me the dignity of finishing. It talks about Satan as being a real person, not made of fire, who tempted Eve, and then Adam followed Eve. Whereas in heaven you have Satan, Adam and Eve all in heaven. Satan asked to bow down to Adam. A totally different narrative. So they're not the same book. You even have the flood account being different. You've got one of Noah's sons drowning in the Quran, whereas all the sons of Noah survived the flood. You also have 9 plagues inflicted on Egypt in the Quran, whereas there are 10 plagues inflicted on Egypt in the Bible. You also have God's name. Some say Jehovah, some say Yahweh, but it is a name which is in the first 5 books of the Bible. You do not find that name in the Quran anywhere. So there are monumental differences.
You want to go through it one by one?
No, that would be a separate show. I mean, you can have a
okay. So I'm gonna just take a few. I'm gonna take a few of them real quick because you took the time to just drop a few. So I'm gonna just deal with a few. Yeah.
No, hang on. More. I don't want us to get distracted on other topics. Thunderous, did he answer your question? You were confused about something, or you said you weren't happy with something.
Yeah, I don't understand. Given the differences between the first 5 books of the Bible or any of the texts that the Jews held, as to why on earth would they call the Muslims who hold a book and a prophet in high esteem that the Jews, using their own book, would totally ignore, totally abstain from? It doesn't
I can respond to that.
Intellectual, or it doesn't make intellectual.
So I'm gonna respond to that, right? Because it's real simple, fam. Because you're making an assumption about a book you obviously don't know. So first and foremost, there's nothing about the.
That's a rude assumption. You're talking about not being offensive, and we're here.
No, it's a rude assumption to say that the books go against each other. Yeah. And when I say that they don't, and I'm gonna try to give you evidence, you're gonna interrupt me real quick. Yeah. So you made the claim that Yahweh is not in the Quran anywhere, right? Are you familiar with Allah Huwa El Hayyu? Do you know that name?
Which surah is that in?
Can't tell you off the top of my head. It's one of the actual names of Allah. Yeah, and it's the only name of Allah, right? That's actually said along with. That's actually said along with the name of Allah when it says there is no God but Allah. Huwa El Hayyu, the ever living. When you break down the base of Hayyu, it's the same as the base of Yahweh. Yud Hey Wow. It comes from Hayya.
Absolute garbage.
Absolute nonsense. You're going to tell me I don't know my language.
Yes,
provide your evidence, Thundered. Provide your evidence. To the contrary.
So again, it also
you don't know the language.
Total garbage.
You don't know the language, and you're saying it's total garbage.
It specifies the same thing. It specifies the same thing in the Hebrew of Psalms, where it specifies who is Eloah save Yahweh. Eloah being the Hebrew, Eloh being the Hebrew equivalent, Arabic Allah.
You're playing the phonic fallacy.
No, he's not. Let him finish. Let him finish. I know.
What I'm saying is like what I said earlier, right? You're talking to me about an English translation, neither of which is the holy form of the book you're talking about. If you're not talking to me about the Hebrew, you're not talking to me about the Torah. If you're not talking about Arabic, you're not talking about the Quran. Right.
That's interesting because God himself says in Isaiah, out of all the nations, tribes, peoples, and tongues, he doesn't say they have to conform to one language. And you quoted the book of Isaiah yourself, Isaiah chapter 2, verses 2 to 4. So you're contradicting the Bible yourself.
Did Isaiah come down in English? Yes or no? I'm not contradicting the Bible in any way, shape, or form. Did it come down in English?
You're implying that everybody that reads the Torah or the Zabur.
You're trying to tell me about Hebrew names in English.
Have to read it in Hebrew.
You're trying to tell me Hayyu in Arabic does not mean the same as Hayya in Hebrew.
Absolutely, because you're playing a phonic fallacy.
So show me
I haven't got the information to hand at the moment, but I've already had.
What makes Hayu not the same as Haya? What makes it different?
What the two different languages for starters.
No.
Hold on. Two different languages. Hold on. Two different languages who both. Hold on. Two different. Hold on. Two different languages. Two different. Hold on. Hold on, Uncle Mo. 1 minute. Yeah, 1 minute. Two different languages. Two different languages that have the same Semitic base. Yeah, let's get that right. The same way Latin is in French. Yeah, en français, it's en espagnol, it's on Italian, it's the same basis. This is why the language is very similar. You're not going to say that, oh no, it's so different. Come on, man. Like, this is some antics you're doing.
That is correct. That is correct. But I'm not entirely convinced that Yahweh come from the same root as the Arabic for Hay.
Okay, but I think this is the discussion, guys, for another.
You don't have to be convinced, but you can. But if you're not going to be convinced, show me the basis. Show me the basis for why somebody's not convinced. Or what? My brother said it's emphatically no. Right?
You cannot prove a negative if you are claiming that Yahweh comes from the same root as the Arabic for high. Then you're the one that has to provide the evidence.
Okay, so go to a Strong's Concordance, if you will. Go to Blue Letter Bible. Yeah.
Okay, stop, guys. Stop.
Now we're not.
I'm muting both of you now. Stop talking. Okay, everybody, stop talking. At the moment, Thunderous says that the Jews would never bring in the Muslims because their books fundamentally disagree. Moore says no, the books do not disagree. That is a discussion for another time. I want to bring in Taqiyya now, who's been waiting to have a discussion. We can have this. We can talk about this some other time, but we're not going to get anywhere here with you guys arguing about whether the books agree or not. Do that on another show. Okay, Taqiyya, you come in here now, please. Taqiyya, are you there?
Well, my point was actually to address this, but yeah.
No, I mean,
someone else want to address that.
Let's move on from this, because otherwise we're going to be arguing about whether the Torah and the Quran or contradict each other or not, and that's another show completely.
Yeah, I do agree with that. So the bigger picture is basically historical information. Is that Islam spread from Mecca, Medina, up to Middle East, Iraq, Syria, Jerusalem, and then to the left. Egypt, Morocco, Spain, and then to the right, Afghanistan, India. And you can say that, basically in the Western history, we had similar colonization, and at least in the West, we curse it while you actually praise it, at least part of it. And you're pointing to, I think Spain was the only thing you could stand for. So,
can I reply to that, please? So once again, we're talking about a specific period in history, about a specific people, and he's bringing in the Middle East, he's bringing all these places. From the beginning of this conversation, me and Brother Moore have utterly condemned the actions of Muslims in an unjust fashion and way, the so-called colonization that occurred. Yeah, we've condemned that. But that's not what we were talking about. We're talking about a particular people at a particular time in a particular situation. And Taqiyya keeps bringing everything else to try and diversity. All Muslims are the same. All colonization of Arabia is the same. All colonization. Come on, man. We've shown you time after time in this conversation. And the nuances in the relationship between the Jews that were living in Spain, who invited the Moors, who weren't Arabs, by the way, but were Moroccans, Senegalese, Malian, from that area, yeah. And now you want to come on, man? Like,
no, I actually think
you're being intellectually dishonest at this point.
Yeah, but did they live as equals? Did they live as equals with the Muslims? Yes or no?
No, not 100%, not at all.
Okay, so there you go. And as far as this golden age for
Whoa,
Jews,
whoa, whoa, whoa.
what do you make of the like
Hold on.
1066
Nobody.
program?
Hold on.
in,
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Can I just say something?
Easy.
Yo.
So based upon the
Muhammad,
Jewish tradition, hold on, real quick. Based upon the Jewish tradition, they could have been equal with the Moors, right? 100%. They could have been, and in fact, they were in leadership and ruling positions in many positions. Yeah. However, understand, if you're a Christian, right? Understand the Jewish tradition stipulates, right, that they've been cast out of their land and that they cannot come back until the Messiah returns. Yeah. So they literally, if they're keeping their law, they cannot make themselves equal 100% to the Moors. They have to live in subjugation, right? Hence, I'm saying my people willfully paid the jizya tax, right? And all I'm asking for is in the Cordoba Caliphate, can you show me where it was oppressive on the Jews?
1066 Granada program. Do you know about that?
I'm 100% with that. That's why I said earlier in the program multiple times, after 1050, it gets dicey.
Mm-hmm. So could you tell the viewers exactly what, like,
1050, hold on. 1050, hold on. 1050 is a damn sight farther along the line than 711 AD. You would agree?
I'm talking about 1066. I'm talking about the program in, like, Granada. Could you tell the viewers?
So again,
what exactly
I said prior to in this whole thing, fam, I gave a time period and everything that I'm working with, and I said after 1050 it gets dicey. You go to 1060. Do you see how this works?
All right, we'll just move on to the next
topic. So can you give me something from 711 to 1060 to where my people from 1050? You know what I'm saying? I'm saying the Cordoba Caliphate. Can you give me something from that time period where the jizya tax is oppressive on the Jews?
This logic. Okay, so don't interrupt me. This, because I'm gonna mute you if you do that, or Rob can do that. So this logic only works on Muslims and children. You know, someone comes into your country with a knife or a sword, and you're asking me, where did they actually say the following sentence, or else it's not oppression? It's so utterly nonsense. It only works with children and Muslims. So I'm going to share my screen right now. I'm going to show you some historical information.
So did the Moors come out kicking out Jews or Christians?
Rob,
did the Moors come out kicking out Jews or Christians?
Rob.
Go ahead, you're presenting.
All right, so I'm going to present something. All right, so this is a book from, I think, 2014, something like that. A frame card. Because I asked you, how do you know anything about Islamic history? And you said, hey, we take information that's outside scripture, that's history, and you're not really against hadith, but you don't take them as something serious. So here you have a literature outside any scriptural information, all right? So you can find it, you can download it yourself. So here it says how Umar ibn Khattab himself went into Egypt. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, so
Egypt again.
Yeah, so what? So I'm showing you how they did the oppression. You know, it's not big difference.
You see, this is what this has been shown over and over. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're not sorry. Actually, you're not sorry.
Okay, don't interrupt, Raz. You can do it afterwards. You can respond next.
Yeah. So Umar bin Khattab, according to Muhammad, because you don't reject the hadith, right? You just don't like it. According to Sahih Muslim here, it says here's the source, 31, 61, 74. I'm going to use non-Islamic sources and Islamic sources. It says here that Muhammad himself said you should conquer Egypt. So it's named by name. And let's continue. So here we have the source that I showed you earlier, that Egypt was conquered, and Umar ibn Khattab, which is basically one of Muhammad's right hand, he went in there and he took and taxed the Jews really, really hard. 40,000 poll taxing on the Jews. And of course, it's more than that, but that's what I'm showing you here. So that is in line with what happened all over Middle East, all over North Africa, all over Asia. It's the same patterns. And if you go to Spain, I'll show you the following. Same literature as I showed you earlier. The myth, because that's what it is. It's fairy tales trying to rewrite history. The first generation Muslims, they went into Spain and they burned churches. And they didn't stop, by the way, at just taking control over Spain. They went even further to northern France. That's Charles Martel stopping them, by the way. And if we continue, let me see, 26 here. Yeah, I mean, they're killing people for not believing with them. And yes, the Muslim had, the Jewish people had a certain status, but it's they're overdoing it. They were still having to pay the jizya. And yeah, as you see here, people were killed for not believing. The churches were burned and people were beheaded, and they were still killed while being in the churches. And my last point here comes here. And you guys probably know about Bernard Lewis, who is one of the greatest historians when it comes to Middle Eastern historians in Great Britain. So he died probably 4 months ago. So yeah, he was around 100 years. So this is what he wrote. So this book is called Race, Slavery, and Middle East. So if you look at it here, you'll read the following here about the Jews. The West European Jews, newly still imperfect and emancipated, so they basically were freed. And what they did is they were appealing to the golden age of Muslim Spain at its tolerance and symbiotic harmony. So they were talking about glorifying basically the past, but they were overstating it. They were seriously mistreated. But since they had a bigger enemy in front of them, the Christians basically mistreated them after the Islamic Muslim people were kicked out. So they started to glorify the time in Muslim caliphate. But we know from historical information they were seriously mistreated. That's my last point.
Okay, Raz, do you want to respond now?
Yeah, so I have a couple of things to say. That was a mouthful. Yeah, so the first thing I would like to say is that these sources that he's quoting, I don't reject them, but if he knows anything about how the peer review process works, you know that people would obviously disagree with that, and people would obviously write things. So if he brings out a source and says that, okay, this is the actual facts, without looking at the counter arguments, or without seeing that the counter arguments are being disputed amongst scholars of that field, then he's highly mistaken. The second thing, he was talking about about Arabia, then he's talking about Egypt, then he was who denied that? No, like honestly, who denied that? Why are you bringing that up? Like, we were talking about a specific period in time. You didn't bring everything that Brother Moore has talked about. You threw that completely away and you said, this is Islam. This is what they do. They did it everywhere in history. The same people that are in the Middle East that spread Islam is the same people that were in Northwest Africa and West Africa that spread Islam. That's totally not true. And also, you said something about the 100 years. Once again, a Jewish noblewoman was raped. Yeah. If you know anything about history and you know anything about how things work, when these kind of things, especially in those days, and when these kind of things, it's a declaration of war. That's number one. And number two, the Jews in that area that were living in Spain invited them, the Moors, who were not related. And if you know anything about history, you also know that the Moors hated the other caliphate that were in the Middle East. They hated them. In fact, if you look at history, the Ottomans, the Christians called on certain Moorish families and Moorish kings to help them kick them out of Vienna. That's number three. And number four is this a crazy thing that you were seeing about, you know, how they conquered, they violently did this, bro. You're trying to put your lens of this civilized nation that we live today back in them days. If we start bringing up Christian history, we'll be here all day. So
Dad, we are talking Christian history. That's what I'm saying. We are talking Christian history.
But still, let's stick to the point and talk about the Moors in Spain, because everything that Brother Moores has said, you haven't brought any evidence to the contrary. We even give you time. There's 5 of you on the panel. You haven't brought any single.
But he's quoted, Raz. He's quoted from multiple books. How can you say he hasn't brought any evidence?
So let's hold on, Raz. Let me get
Brother Moore, hold on 1 minute. What do you mean he didn't bring any? He brought he talked about Egypt and the Middle East more, and he only brought one evidence.
Raz, let me get this real quick. So again, the Christian brother, right? The brother Taqiyya Watch, right? So right off the top, let's get this straight, yeah. The people who are being physically and militarily dealt with are not the Jews. They are the Christians who are on top of the Jews in Spain, who are oppressing the Jews in Spain. Yeah. So the blonde-haired, blue-eyed people you're talking about getting castrated, this, that, and the third, and the churches you're talking about being burned are the Christians who are oppressing the Jews. You're not talking about Jews getting castrated and synagogues getting burned down, are you?
Love to respond. Finish your point.
So you've been talking a lot and all kind of crazy stuff. I'm gonna make my point, yeah. So here's what it comes down to, fam. I'm not taking the actions of King Roderick and putting them on all Christians, yeah. I got Christians in my family. That's crazy. I'm not gonna blame them for King Roderick, yeah. But here's what I am saying: the Christianity and the Christians who were running Spain at that time were messed up people with a messed up tradition who were not following their book. Their book didn't condone the actions that they were doing. Christians are not meant to oppress the Jews via the Bible, are they? Are they?
Finish your point.
Okay. So Christians are not meant to oppress the Jews via the Bible, yeah?
No.
So they weren't keeping their scriptures, fam. And so the difference in what you're talking about the Arabs and the Jews over in the East, and the difference about the Moors and the Jews in the West is the Moors and the Jews were family, fam. So again, North Africa, right, was largely Jewish for the longest. And it was a largely Jewish population that converted to Islam in North Africa. They were already cool with the tradition, the Abrahamic tradition. You feel me? You can see the sons of Kahina instantaneously converted to Islam when their mother died. They didn't agree with the war she was fighting against the Arabs and the other people coming in, right? But again, like my brother Raz said, it wasn't the Arabs who went into Spain. The Jews weren't going to deal with the Arabs, right? The Arabs and the Jews in the East, they had beef from previous stuff, right? It's a different conversation. And that's why I'm talking. And that's why I'm talking about the specific situation about the Moors in Spain, where they're not dealing with the whole madhab nonsense. They're not dealing with the whole the jurisprudence of the hadith. They're dealing with the Quran, and they're dealing with family, and they're dealing with justice. Yeah. And so under that system, I'm asking, can you show me? Because again, I'm stipulating jizya in the Quran, from a Quranist perspective, is something that's willfully paid. Can
you wrap up? You've spoken long time now. Calm down.
No. So first and foremost, B, you took all kind of time, fam. You're talking about giving presentations and all kind of stuff, fam. You got people that won't even share,
right?
You won't even share screens for stuff I'm talking about when I'm giving people links and whatnot. Yeah. So ease up. Yeah. So here's the final point. Yeah.
Hold on. If you want to present evidence, I will be the first one to show the evidence. So just get the evidence. Don't have this victimhood based on false assumptions.
Anybody can listen back and hear me say 2-3 times in the show that I sent to the people who run this joint, yeah, red names and all that, yeah, at y'all, you know what I'm saying, at Jinn&Tonic. I gave you the link for Jewish resources that stipulate everything I'm talking about.
Can you put it in
the Jews saying it for themselves?
Or can you put it in the private side chat, because then we can see it? Can you see the private side chat? Are you on a mobile or on your computer?
I'm on a phone.
Because on the phone, if you're on the Hangouts app, if there's an arrow that'll take you back to the chat part, in that chat part, if you put the link in there, then we can see it there.
Gotcha. Let me go find it on my phone again. Hold on.
All right. So are you finished?
In the meantime, I got one last point to make on this. Yeah. So I've already agreed that people who follow the extremities in the hadith, you're going to see extreme situations of the jizya, right? Now, what I'm talking about, yeah, is that it's not meant to be an oppressive thing. So what I asked for specifically was during the court of a caliphate, right? And at least from 711 to 1050, right? Show me where the Jews were oppressed via the jizya tax, because they flourished under that time period. So I'm asking for that evidence, and that's it.
All right, Taqiyya, do you want to respond?
Yes, please. All right. So I'll be fair. If you have any evidence, you can post as Rob said, or you can post on Hangouts where you and me have contact, and I'll gladly show the evidence. So I'll be fair. So don't come with this victimhood. It's doesn't have any basis for that. So let me respond to that. All right. So according to your logic, the Jews has the right to invite people, foreign people, by the way. And I would say, basically, let's play out your scenario. So you guys have here the simplified historical timeline, how the Islamic Caliphate were spread the first 100 years. And he rejects most of this besides North Africa and Spain. But in his logic, someone else can come and invite people with the sword to take over the nation and massacre people, or at least make them subjugate. what about if Jews would invite people to this place? Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. Based on your logic, you have no problem with this. Would you feel comfortable responding to that?
You mean
Afghanistan, Iran, and Syria? Did I miss?
Afghanistan is way east.
So you asked me.
Yeah.
Okay,
is this
so
correct?
No, Afghanistan is east of Iran.
That's Iran.
It's even up, maybe something like this. All right. So my point remains: foreign people says, "Hey, we need help because we are mistreated," which is actually what happened in Iraq before Hitler actually conducted his war. They were seriously mistreated and they were expelled. And so, if we would use your logic, foreign people that lives as a minority makes an invitation to Iraq and Syria, Afghanistan, and let's just say one more country. Are you all right with that? They come in and they colonize, by the way.
Okay, so you allow me to respond now? So your history is completely incorrect. The Jews were not foreigners; they were native to the land. The Christians were the foreigners, sir.
What?
Well, that's
the same region.
So again, so the Jews were in Spain along with the Carthaginians and the Barcid family. I'm from these Jews, fam. Go check out the Carthaginian Jews. They were in Spain. Again, North Africa was in Spain before the Christians were. So I don't know what you're talking about. Like the Christians came through, oppressed the people that were there, and now they're all of a sudden native. And the people who are native are foreigners. Get your facts straight.
Well, I would doubt that. The Jews come from
you doubt that, but show me the facts for what I'm showing. Show me the counterfacts.
Show me actually where this is true. So you make the claim.
Barcelona.
Hold on, I'm speaking.
Barcelona is named after the Barcid family. Barcelona.
Rob, am I going to do it, or are you going to do it?
More. I thought you were going to post the link into the chat here.
Hold on. I'm talking to my dude, and I'm trying to do three things at once.
Okay, what I understand is you're claiming the Jews were there before anybody else. The Christians came in. They overwhelmed and conquered them. The Jews were unhappy with this. They went to their fellow brothers in North Africa and said, "Hey, come and help us out." The brothers in North Africa who happened to be Muslim and not Jewish came and helped them out, and it was a golden period until 1050. Is that fair?
Around that, yeah.
Okay, so I've now summarized the position.
And I was asking for proof that during the Cordoba Caliphate, the jizya tax was used to oppress the Jews. I'm waiting for one piece of proof from my dude. I gave the time period, 711 to 1050. Hit me off with the oppressive jizya tax in the Cordoba Caliphate.
Okay, that's one question, but I think what the other panelists are questioning is whether that history that you're talking about is in fact true. Abu, is that what you were challenging?
Well, I mean, look, it's not as simple. Like, first you have
okay, we've got to keep it concise. So give us a really concise version because we're getting late here, and we can do another show. We can go into deep details on this if we like, but give us a short version here. Because if in fact the Jews were there first, then it could be that what Moore's saying is in fact justified. Hey, they were the first people there. The Christians came and invaded them. They went, we're not happy with this. We want our Moor brothers in North Africa to come and rescue us, essentially. And then there was peace. So do you want to speak to that? Or otherwise we can go to look for the evidence.
You can say that the Phoenicians were there, but you can go back even further and see like people that were there before the Phoenicians. Like it's a mix between peoples that were there, and some converted to Christianity through the Roman Empire, and it's complicated. It's not that easy. And yes, there were Jews there, but
you made the majority.
Did the Jews pay the jizya? Can I ask?
100%. And all I'm asking for is, can you show me where it was oppressive during the Cordoba Caliphate? Because I'm stipulating it's not meant to be oppressive.
But Andalusian gave you the evidence. He gave you the link. He showed you the book which actually shows it. What more do you need?
No, he didn't.
He showed the Christians getting kicked out, right? And he says that the Jews paid the jizya, right? But it never shows where they're being oppressed via the jizya.
You are pro-Jewish. And the Quran says, fight until they give the jizya willingly while they are humbled. So
I'm a Jew.
The Jews are humbled and they give the jizya.
But I'm a Jew.
Fight until they do that. How does that... Excuse me?
I am a Jew.
Okay, so what's your point, Raz? You've repeated.
I understand the context.
What are you?
Context.
I don't care what you are. You can be whatever you want.
Yeah, but what I'm saying,
I want to understand the bloody logic here.
But what I'm
Fight
saying is that
until
understand
they
the
give the jizya.
you're not religious. You're not religious. You're not religious, so you don't understand the context.
Roz, let him go.
That is a very, very bad argument. And if you do not understand that, I feel sorry for you.
Okay, carry on, Abu.
Thank you.
Let's get to our point here because we're getting a bit late.
How the believe? If you're saying that the Jews themselves are paying the jizya, and this ayah apply to them, fight until they give the jizya willingly while they are humbled, then the Jews are among the oppressed.
I didn't say that they went on. So again, I said this very clear because someone asked me what was the Quran basis that they went into Spain on. I said it wasn't Surah 9. It was standing for justice. Yeah, the Quran stipulates that we are to stand for justice against ourselves, our family, etc. And then if we don't, that Allah is well acquainted with what we do.
And despite that, they also have to pay the jizya.
So again, this is what I'm stipulating. The Jewish tradition is the fact that they're in exile at the time. Again, I also come from these North African Jews. Yeah. So in the fact that they're in exile, they're not allowed to be they're not allowed to be an autonomous nation. So they can't have the Jews or the Moors come remove the Christians and then just go be their own and have it just be Jewish Spain, right? So it's in order to keep their tradition, right? Because they're commanded via Jewish law in Isaiah 16, right? And other places, right? That they're supposed to when they're in captivity or whatever, the best place for them to dwell is amongst the Moabites, who historically, when you look at the annals of history, the Moors in Spain were called Moabites, etc. There's a long history on that one right there, but they go to people whose family, right?
Then I would like to ask you, if the Moors just wanted to liberate the Jews, why didn't they say to them, okay, you don't have to pay the jizya and be humbled. You can just go do whatever you want. You don't have to do anything. You can just live here and peaceful, but you don't have to pay the jizya. We are liberating you. Why didn't they just do that?
Because the jizya, again, when you're looking how it's instituted, it's just a sales tax for being able to do what you do, right? To practice your tradition, and that's what they're doing. They're paying the sales tax to be able to freely practice their tradition, and that's what you.
Why should they have to do that, though? Why should they have to do that?
Can I just say something real quick? Yeah. Can you not?
Because they hold on. It's a simple question, simple answer. Because they willingly did it. They voluntarily.
Not even that.
So
let's not forget that the Jews
willingly do it.
Let's not forget that the Jews. Let's not forget that the Jews in Spain under the Christian paid a higher tax. Way higher tax than they did under the Moorish Empire. So a state that runs without tax can pay for the limited services like the army, like the infrastructure, etc. So a tax was needed. A jizya is just a tax for Christians, Jews. That's it. And under the Moorish Empire, they paid a lower tax than they did under the Christians. So are you going to criticize the Christians? Are you going to criticize the Christians for saying, oh, you paid a higher... Come on, man.
How was the tax taken?
What you mean, how was it taken?
You got me curious, fam. It's collected on monetary gains and goods, etc. You know what I'm saying? It's like I said. So again, like the brother's talking about, right? Like, so in the dhimmi status, like I don't have to participate in the army, but I'm going to be protected by the army. So there's a cost for this whole thing, yeah. So I'm paying for the right to be a citizen in the nation, right? And I'm also paying for the right to be able to have autonomy in my religion.
Okay, can I have
the reason I was asking.
Okay, hang on a moment, everybody. TJ, just hang on. Let's have stops in for a short while, then you can come in after that.
I just need 35 seconds because this is the book that that Thunderous present. No, sorry, that's what was it? Taqiyya presented in the beginning, which is Life as a Dhimmi in Medieval Islamic Spain. And it says here the following excerpts from the myth of the Andalusian paradise, Muslims, Christians, and Jews under Islamic rule in medieval Spain. This was considered the history book of the year. And it says here in the bottom paragraph, this book aims to demystify Islamic Spain by questioning the widespread belief that it was a wonderful place of tolerance and convenience convivencia of three cultures under the benevolent supervision of enlightened Muslim rulers. As the epigraphs throughout this book illustrate, the 19th century romantic vision of Islamic Spain has morphed into today's mainstream academic and popular writings that celebrate Al-Andalus for its multiculturalism. unity of Muslims, Christians, and Jews, diversity and pluralism, regardless of how close such emphasis to the facts. Some scholars of the Spanish Middle Ages have even openly declared an interest in promoting these ideas. So this is
So can I ask
showing
you a question? Can you read the reviews on this?
exactly the ideas that we are talking about, that the things, the claims that are being made here, that people
Yeah.
have been called in to liberate the Jews and everybody was happily living ever after. That's nonsense.
Can you read the reviews, please?
Not only that, hold on, real quick. So I love the excerpt you just read, right? Anywhere in that book. So that's supposed to be the book that's supposed to end all arguments. Anywhere in the
No,
book.
it's not. It's just it's not. Who says this?
Real quick. Can you cite me one line from that book that states that the Jews were being oppressed through the jizya tax via
I have not read the book. What you
hold
are
on,
doing,
via the court of a caliphate, right? So I keep asking for the same basic thing, right? I put my information in the link. I'm waiting for it to get shown and cited. Yeah. So I'm saying, where's my information back? Where's somebody citing to where the Jews were oppressed during the court of a caliphate via the jizya tax? That's all I'm waiting for.
Sorry, where
That's
is your
exactly
said
what
that
they're
they
saying
paid
here.
the jizya. But then you're gonna
It says here, published here, gives a taste of what life as a dhimmi was like.
Do you guys know anything about? Do you guys know about the peer review process?
You're not even reading in the book. You're reading from the back cover, my dude. You understand how ridiculous and repugnant this is, right? Crack the book, right? And show me where the citation is for the Jews getting oppressed via the jizya tax during the court of a caliphate. Because what I keep stipulating is that it's not
your text that says the Jews went and asked for help from the Moors?
So I just cited the information that I've been asked to cite because it took me all kind of hell to get it on the phone during this conversation.
You've made
all
the
this type
claim
of stuff, yeah.
Or have you put it into the chat?
So okay, so now you're asking me to provide something after I've been asking for something, and I've already provided sources for what I was already asked to provide sources.
More. Have you put it into the chat? Because I'm looking.
I've been put it there.
Where did you put it? I don't see it.
Could put it on our Hangouts as well. I'm fine.
Taqiyya, can you answer give a reference from the book how the Jews were treated? Because I have read that book too.
There's several quotes. They're mistreated. First of all, if you really want to help people, if they're mistreated by another enemy, then you liberate them from their enemy and you let them govern the country themselves, which is not the case. They come in and they colonize the country.
Most ignorant Christian in the world because you don't know nothing about the Jewish tradition.
Yeah, so obviously, Rob, I'm sorry if I muted him because he's not even respecting what I'm speaking.
No, he's at the back chat.
Let Taqiyya finish now. Now you've talked for a long time.
And when he speaks, he can speak, and I will not interrupt him. So if you want to liberate someone, ISIS liberated the Iraqis from, let's say American foreign power, but did they give the Iraqis power actually to govern the country? No, that's not how it rolled. So this is just a false nonsense logic. They went in there, they took away whoever was in power, any king, and they enforced jizya, which is basically making the people second or third class citizens. Sure, they will make a difference between people, and some people will be more oppressed than other ones, but they will govern the country and they will install Sharia law for 800 years. This is what they are telling me. I'll talk to ISIS supporters, by the way. I do have 1-2 people who are actually...
and the Christians came in and kicked the Jews out in 1491, yeah?
Calm down. So I do have that. And they say that they liberated Syria and Iraq and even Philippines. They do agree with that. I do have a relationship with these people. And they have the same logic as this person is saying. So he is justifying apartheid. He's justifying having sex slaves. What's the difference between you and ISIS? Actually, ISIS are more better than you because they're more honest about it. What's the difference between you and ISIS?
Can I reply to that?
Give him a chance to respond.
So, by the way, Brother Moore has posted the thing in the back chat. Yeah.
I can't see it. I mean, I'm looking in the chat here. I cannot see it.
Let me repost it again.
The last thing I see is stop spamming posting a link. Is that the one?
I just posted it there. And I just posted that. He still hasn't gone to the point of the crux of his argument. He's trying to draw people into this emotional argument, saying that, ISIS, trying to throw out these trigger words. ISIS, same mentality, all these stuff. Yeah, we're not even talking. No one's denying that. Like, No one's actually denying what you're saying. We're talking about a specific subject in a specific time period of history. Yeah, stick to the point. Stop trying to divert and throw in ISIS, throw in Egypt, throw in Middle East. We were talking about the first 400 years of Islamic rule in Spain. No one's talking about justifying conquering lands or colonization or all these stuff, and no one's saying that they have the same mentality. You're throwing loads of ad hominems to try and distract people from the point.
No,
Stick to the point.
See the link. Do you see the link I just put in the chat?
Yeah, I see it there. I don't see the link from Mo, and I don't see any link from Raz either in the chat.
Look at the back chat.
It says, as historians look back before the first millennium at the Jewish population of Iberia, not Spain, Iberia, we see Jews living in convergence with both Muslims and Christians. However, Muslims were undoubtedly the principal subjects in the kingdom, not Jews nor Christians. The Muslims had greater rights and responsibilities than non-Muslims. Thus, Moorish toleration was not exactly Moorish equality. History demonstrates a long history of persecutions against the Jewish people, and the Jews living in Muslim Spain were not excluded from such inequity. And then it goes down and down and gives you more and more and more. This is a long thing with all the sources.
No. Read the whole thing, because the Jews break the whole thing down. They break down the fact that they were getting oppressed by the Christians.
I don't think that's even the thing he's talking.
Where does it say they were oppressed by the Christians?
I don't think he's even talking.
It says that they were oppressed by the Moors.
Hold on, check this. You conveniently you stopped at a very convenient point. I noticed that y'all are playing some crazy games.
I just opened this.
So for everybody, hold on. So for everyone listening, I'm reading off of SephardicStudies.org. Okay, /Islam HTML etc. Right. Give me a quick second.
Is that the one that Stop Spamming put into the chat there?
Yes.
I have no idea.
I just saw it for the first time in my life, so I don't have an agenda. So please stop accusing me of things that you have no knowledge of.
So either read the whole thing or read none of it. That's I'm gonna accuse you of being biased when you read part of the source and try to be like, oh, it says this, that, and third. Fam, read the whole thing that the Jews are saying.
Listen, what the hell is going on? You asked me, show me one quote, show me one source which says this, and I'm giving you one source which says this. And now you tell me, but this is not the right thing. Come on, make up your mind.
No. I asked. So again, you're trying to read from the source that I'm putting out there, right? So if you keep
Jinn&Tonic,
on reading,
look at the chat. Look at the bottom chat. I put in where he's reading it from. I just tagged you.
Read from where he's.
So, Brother Mo, you continue reading the source, and it states, and the source actually states, university studies carried on this. So go on, Brother Mo.
So the occupation of Iberia by the Moors was a welcome occurrence for a well-pummeled and remaining Jewish population. Of course, the Muslims were not completely tolerant, but they were more tolerant than the rulers of the previous administration. Under the ruling caliph, the descendants of Muhammad, the prophet of God on earth, the Jews were able to preserve their rights and traditions. Peaceful coexistence led to their economic and social expansion. Their status was that of dhimmis, non-Muslims living in the land governed by Muslims. The Jews had limited autonomy, but full rights to practice their religion, as well as full protection by their Muslim rulers. But this did not occur for free. There was a specific tax called the jizya that dhimmis had to pay to receive their benefits. Having its origin in the Quran, it states dhimmis who did not pay this tax should either convert to Islam or face the death penalty, etc. Right, citing Quran verse 929. This tax higher than the tax Muslim had to pay was in several occasions one of the most important sources of income for the kingdom. The jizya was not only a tax but also a symbolic expression of subordination, etc. Right. But then it goes on to say, hold on. From the second half of the 8th century to the end of the 11th century, Jewish life flourished while contributing greatly to the scholarship. A transplanting program was established. Hold on, let me jump down because this is talking about some extra stuff. The influence
is posted at the back chat.
For almost 400 years, the Jews lived in Al-Andalus amid the moderate Islamic rule based in Cordoba. Later came the insurgence of the Muslim fundamentalism Almoravids of the Almoravids in 1055, and not long after that, their enemies, right? The Almohads in 1147, right? So again, right, in this time period, there's a moderate time period where they're paying the jizya tax, and it says that they flourished in Spain, right?
But
they flourish there.
they may be flourishing in a way, but that doesn't mean that they're not oppressed. What you just read...
So I'm asking for you to show me the oppression, is what I'm saying. Because it says here, so it's saying here that after the 400-year period, you're going to see the oppression. I'm completely...
You just read about how if they didn't pay the jizya, they had to choose between death or converting to Islam. And you're reading about that, how they do not have equal status. And despite that, you're arguing that they are not oppressed.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I find this is like cognitive dissonance without the mental discomfort, like, which is even worse.
Abu, there's actually a name for it. Can I continue?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So this is called Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah,
so
I know the Dunning-Kruger, but yeah.
Oh, you've heard about it. Okay, so for those who have never heard about it, it's called Dunning-Kruger effect. Basically, referring to those who are very intelligent, they're quite skeptical, and they will be refrained from making certain claims if they cannot back it up. But those who are haven't really, developed themselves, they will be quite confident in their, I guess, claims and psychological less self-awareness, I would say. So you guys
can Google. What does flourishing mean?
Yes, but the reason why I chose cognitive dissonance is that he's over and over again contradicting himself, and he's not seeing that what he's saying in one part what he's saying is completely contradicting himself.
What's the contradiction? I keep saying there's a 400-year time period, yeah? But what's the contradiction?
But he's not even feeling the mental discomfort that should induce it.
What's the mental discomfort? The Christians are oppressing the fuck out of the Jews. The Jews get unoppressed, and then they get oppressed later. I'm talking about the period where they get freed from oppression. You're telling me that period where they're liberated is them being oppressed. I'm saying, show me the oppression.
Are the Jews the natives, by the way? Can you provide evidence? Yes. Provide evidence, please.
Again, on that same spot, it's saying that they're there in 405 CE. Like they're way prior to that, fam. Show me where the Christians are the original people there, fam. Show me where Barcelona is not named after North Africans, fam.
I mean, you could say that they were native.
Christianity is a belief. The Jewish people are more ethical group, based on ethnicity, So, I mean, if the Christians or these people did not embrace Christianity until later, it's still the same group before that. So provided evidence that these people came before those group that.
Okay, so very simply, again, like I said, Carthaginian Jews went with the Barcid family where Barcelona is named after, Barcelona, Spain. It ain't named after some Christian people. It's named after North African Carthaginians. Yeah, you can check out the Jews getting expelled from Israel in 70 AD, right, and going to Mauritania, kicking it with these same people, right. You can see Queen Kahina, who was a Jewish Berber queen of North Africa, who actually
respond to my question.
Yeah, but the point is, like, not all Christians were Visigoths or Vandals.
That's right.
Other people.
So for the Visigoths, native to Spain,
probably were descendants of people who lived even before the Phoenicians came to Spain.
So the Visigoths are Germanic. How are they native to Spain? Simple as.
No. I'm not. I agree. The Visigoths.
So what's the point, fam?
Because there were other people as well in Spain whose ancestors probably lived there even before the Phoenicians.
Show me that Jews are so the Jews are there before the Visigoths. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So again, you try to tell me that the Jews there were foreigners, that the Visigoths were native, and that the Jews went and got more foreigners to go kick out the native people. So you're false.
Not what I'm saying.
No, bullshit. You try to say that go to Syria and Iraq and Iran and the foreigners, this, that, and the third. So, no. You try to tell me that the Jews were foreigners, which is why you asked me, were they native to the land? Because I kept saying they were native.
No. That was, I think, that was not what Taqiyya said, but
that's exactly what the tape will reflect. Anybody who wants to go look back on.
Okay. But I never said that. I agree. The Jews were there before the Germanic tribes arrived.
Okay.
However, there were also other people there whose ancestors lived in this Iberian Peninsula even before the Phoenicians came there. And they, now after living under the Roman Empire and so on, they became Christians after a while, okay? That's not a genetical trait, okay? But that is somewhat beyond the point. We're not arguing about that. Our main point here is that you're arguing that the Jews were liberated. And that is a huge truth with modification. They lived under oppression. That oppression might be slightly less than the oppression they lived under the Germanic tribes, maybe. But it's still oppression.
So what was the oppression? Because you're saying the tax itself was the oppression, yeah?
Because they were not equal to they did not have equal status as the Moorish people, as the Muslims.
Yes.
They had to pay the jizya,
I reply to this,
and they could only live, they could only practice their way of life as long as they did that. Like,
okay, so were they able to attain positions of rulership that wasn't like the caliph? Anything underneath the caliph?
Your own text that you cited says the first of many discriminatory laws against the Jews was passed even before the Moorish invasion in 305 CE in the Roman province of Hispania. Soon after, the Council of Toledo passed a canon forbidding Jews from blessing the crops of non-Jews. Blah 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 blah. Early Christian.
Why'd you not read the whole thing, and why'd you not put it in your screen so everyone can see?
You can read the whole.
So it starts off that they're being oppressed by the Romans in Hispania in 405. Yes. So again, the page that I sent you is from Jews stipulating the whole entire history of Jews in the area, talking about good and bad periods. So it says before the Moors got there, they were even being oppressed. And when the Moors got there, it says it was a moderate Islamic rule. Yeah, on the same page, I read that. And so all I'm saying is for a certain time period under that Islamic rule, that moderate Islamic rule, right? Again, you're having an issue with the fact that they weren't caliphs and whatnot, yeah, and that they're not equal number one citizens and whatnot, yeah. But again, via Jewish law, they cannot be because they're in exile. As a Christian, you should get this.
Yeah, like when they were in exile in Babylon and so on, they didn't have the same status as the Babylonian rulers.
Not even
100%.
Not even that they would not want it's in the doctrine that we should not go back until our Messiah comes.
Right.
So even having a semi-state is illegal in the Torah. It's against the Torah. It's against teachings. So what I'm saying, what Brother Moore is saying is that they had the leeway to do anything they wanted for protection, since they weren't allowed, based on their own religion, they weren't allowed to have an army. Yeah. So they needed protection because at that time they were getting expelled from all over Europe. Christians were expelling Jews all over Europe, and the only place they had a standing, an equal, a sort of better opportunity was in Spain
or Muslim land for that juncture.
Yeah. So let's.
So when the Christians expelled the Jews from Spain, when the Christians kicked them out again. So when they got the Reconquista, when you said we need another Reconquista, what happened was they kicked the Jews out, and where did the Jews go? They went back to Africa. Yeah.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
So I do support Iranians taking the country back from these that we call today as Islamists, just those who take Muhammad more serious. So the Iranian people, if we have any here, take back your country like the Spanish people did. Kick them out if they won't submit to that. So that's my last word. And
so you support the Iranians kicking out any? You support the Iranians kicking out any Jews of Iran?
No, I don't.
So that's exactly what happened when the Reconquista happened.
Support that.
The Christians kicked out the Jews.
Can I speak?
And the Jews went back to Africa amongst the Muslims. The Jews went back amongst the African Muslims where they had safe haven.
All right, so you just understand muting. That's how you deal with people like this. So I don't agree with all of it. The main idea with the Crusades or the Spanish Inquisition was to make sure that they take back the power. That was the main idea. So when they deviate from that, I don't agree with that. But the Iranian people take back your country, and you deserve it. And when it comes to the Afghani people, you take back your country. Can I speak?
Yeah, go on.
The Afghani people take back your country. Used to be Buddhist. To the Iranian people, used to be Zoroastrian. Take back your country. I do support that, as I support the Spanish people doing that.
100%.
All right, guys, I'm gonna leave. Thank you for
100%.
Can I speak?
Just so my brother is leaving, and he never saw.
Can I speak? All right. So thank you everybody for allowing me to speak, and thank you Rob and Stops for giving me time.
Thanks for coming on, Taqiyya.
Thank you. Enjoyed your
Bye-bye.
presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
That was nice.
Good night.
Let's just know that nobody during this whole thing, yeah, we stuck. Me and Brother Moore stuck to the point. Yeah, in no way or shape or form did we bring anything that Christians did in history. In no place or form that we deviate from the point. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that people may have disagreements. This is good. We're having discussion. But there's no need to throw in at homonyms. There's no reason to laugh at people's point. Let's just be civil about discussion. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. And with that, I'm out as well.
Goodbye.
Yeah, here's my final point. My final point is this: whether you be Christian, Muslim, Jew, whatever, we don't need to have any problem with each other, right? I'm not going to put the sins of King Roderick on any other Christian. I'm not going to put Christians kicking out my Jewish family in 1491 on the Christians, right? That's people. That's not the religion, right? So if you want to be mad about people doing crazy stuff, I'm not mad at you. I condemn all the crazy stuff. Yeah, I condemn all the crazy stuff. But the point of tonight's discussion was jizya, yeah, and its oppression aspects, right? And I agree with Taqiyya Watch in the sense to where if you take jizya and you apply certain aspects of certain hadith, it can get extreme. But via the Quran in and of itself, I'm a Quranist. I use the Quran for my jurisprudence. It's a willing thing, and it's not meant to be oppressive in the sense to where you go look at the Jews in Spain. They weren't oppressed via the jizya tax for the first 400 years. And I waited for my brother to cite how they were oppressed via the jizya, because what I cited said that they flourished during that time period. So I'm just saying, family.
Okay. Do you have time to talk about the Quran itself?
Not at the moment, but I'm willing to come back on again.
Yes, that would be very welcome, because I'd love to have a chat, because I think it was also Taqiyya what you said, because I spent a lot of times on the, I don't know if you know this, the web page or the forum Minds, the free Minds, and they are Quranists, and I also think that the Quranists are the better version of the Islamic faith, and that's why I'd be very interested in chatting with you.
I would love to, and and I don't want to be clear. That's particularly why I was talking about the particular time period in history, because that's for everyone who even thinks that concept that Quranists are okay. You can go look at that and see to where people not being ruled by a school of jurisprudence were being just with the Jews, etc. You know what I'm saying? It's not. You can see a different interpretation of the Quran in that small time period, and then but go ahead.
Okay, so I think we'll have you back on again more. I'll get your contact from Taqiyya Watch, I guess, because I don't think we've got it. Or if you can give us an email in the back chat or something, or some way to contact you, we can do that.
We'll do.
You're welcome to stay on. If you want to go to an after show and carry on. If you guys are finished, that's fine. Up to you entirely. We can obviously have you stay on, and we'll close the show for the live broadcast, but it can carry on, and we can bring in extra people, so it can be a fuller panel if you want it. Up to you.
I got a runner at the moment, but I will definitely send my information and whatnot, and we'll build in the future.
All right, great.
Okay,
right.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming
Thank
back.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, thank you for the discussion, too.
All right, guys. I mean, you guys are welcome to carry on chatting in the obviously, and we can put it into an after show. If there's anybody else in the chat or in the viewer that wants to come in, you're welcome to. I'll put the link in. Abu or Stops, have we got a hadith of the day, and then we'll close off the live show and we'll put it into an after show, and you guys can continue, and I'll put the link in the chat for anybody who wants to join. Abu, have you got a
No, I don't. Do
Stops,
you have Stops?
Have you got one there?
Yeah. Okay, this is also a short one. It's from Sahih Muslim, but you can also see this in the Muwatta. It's in Muslim, it's 235113. Ibn Umar reported Allah's messenger as saying that a non-Muslim eats, I mean, we're talking about the Moors, okay? That a non-Muslim eats in 7 intestines, whereas a Muslim eats in 1 intestine. I don't know if you know the context of this one, because there was a black guy visiting and they gave him some food, and then he says, do you want some more or a drink of milk or something? And he said, yes, please, I'll have another one. And then he says, okay, great. Here, bring him another one. And says, do you want another one? Yes, I'll have another one. And he said so 6 times. So he had 7 glasses or 7 things to eat. This is why they said he must have 7 intestines, 7 stomachs.
Alrighty. Okay, on that note, thank you very much to all the panelists that are here. We'll stay on if you'd like to stay on. Thank you to all the viewers, to everybody in the chat. We'll go to an after show, and I will post a link in the chat so you can join in for those who want to continue the conversation. So we'll see you again next Friday at 8 p.m. Thanks so much, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Is it
Abu, what is this that